Oh, we'll get into that after.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Merry Christmas to all those who are watching us at the moment. If I know you and you know where the link is, come join us. We will definitely appreciate the company. I am joined at the current moment by Omanal, and we're going to talk about really anything that comes across our minds because it is a late show, which means I don't care. If we want to talk about politics, oh my God, we're going to talk politics. The only rule is what's good for this goose is good for the gander. If I'm going to make fun of Rick Van Winkle, we're going to make fun of the Great Orange Threat. You're going to make fun of AOC, we're going to make fun of the Terror Twins because they don't even get along right now, and I love this for them. So, anyways, I want to start with, how was your Christmas?
Uneventful. I slept, was playing video games, and realizing I'm getting old as my hands start creeping up. I want bigger controllers. I don't know why they can't get controllers that like they had in the Xbox days. You know, the early Xbox days. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got one, but they made it smaller. Look, not all of us have little petite hands, and some of us like this, and you know, we get crab claws after a while. You know,
right. Hunger.
Oh, Hunger.
Yeah, let me put this actually in chat. See what kind of what can I catch on this bait? My Christmas was single father Christmas.
All right, same here.
My daughter got what she wanted.
My son did the same. He got all of his stuff. He's like, it's the best Christmas ever. Of course, my son, what he wants is stuff for like lights and electronics. So okay, fine.
By no means do I want a Hallmark Christmas. Christmas does not have the same gleam as an adult that it does as a kid, and it's just kind of depressing. Hey, Hunger.
What is up, you beautiful bastards?
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take that. No,
I am glad to see that you're not in the hospital. You're in your own bed.
Yeah, friend of ours took me and my roommate to go to the corral for dinner tonight.
Oh, nice.
And I ate about 50 pounds of meat.
Oh, so it's like my average day. No.
How do you like your steak? Still mooing.
Yeah. I like my steak rare, medium rare. If it's too done, it's rather just eat my shoe.
Yeah, medium rare to medium for me. That's why I can.
I have a couple different tests when I'm starting to date somebody new, and how they order their steak is a big one.
Yeah, and they had a big ass turkey, so I got the turkey leg off of it.
You know, I think there's a place here that does smoked turkey. It's probably the only place I like where they make the turkey that I actually like.
I can't. I'm turkeyed out by Thanksgiving. If I don't want to see another damn bird until next Thanksgiving, especially if I'm the one having to cook the bloody thing.
I will cook turkey every month.
Well, I mean, let's see. I've liked turducken. That's the other way. It's the turducken, and then this one place over here called Johnny's that makes their turkey, but their turkey is moist and it's flavorful. It's however they do it. I think they barbecue it for a long time. And yeah, it's just much better.
I find the trick is when making a turkey, and you want it to be moist, you don't want to be dry, is to cook the damn thing upside down. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to end up falling apart. But if you're just putting it on a serving dish, and it's not supposed to be the plate, the table decoration, but actually being served, flip the damn bird upside down, put whatever broth or whatever you want to use, your seasonings, and cook it that way. The breast is more moist. Everything just goes better. It's going to be an ugly turkey if you try to, make it table decoration, but it's not supposed to be decoration. It's supposed to be on my plate.
Well, what I do with my turkey is I put about 2 sticks of butter under the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and cook it that way. That way you get that crispy skin, because the crispy skin, besides the drumstick, is the best part of the turkey.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just for those who like their breast meat, not dried out. upside down, I
breast
find
meat
is the
for
best.
soup.
Right.
Here's the other thing, and I know that the USDA, but I've looked in the research. Look, people, and I know that that's different when you're in a cook, but if you're at home, 150 kills just about anything. Okay, and that's the other problem I think, because they go through that. But you know what I also like is when they debone it and then they put it into a roll. And so
Oh, yeah.
with the and then you put the stuffing, the really nice stuffing inside. Yeah, and I love crawfish stuffing. Oh, that's crawfish stuffing or dirty rice with pecan stuffing.
I did that. It's a pain in the ass, and I don't recommend anybody doing it. But I got a rack of ribs, huge rack of pork ribs, and I cut each and every bone out individually, where it was still one whole piece, which took me more time than I really want to talk about. Then I put all the seasonings in it, and I just rolled it up, tied it up, and throw it in. And the thing was, by the time it was done rolled, it was huge. Went over well.
You know what though is I sometimes think that looks just as pretty as anything else. I was watching someone make the Yule log.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just like, holy crap! It's just like I give up.
Yeah, realistically, what's prettier than a standing rib roast?
Oh jeez, yeah.
Yeah, the crown. I've made over my cooking experience. I've probably made that like 12 times with beef and lamb.
Oh,
I prefer lamb.
The other thing I wouldn't mind, which sounds fine because it doesn't look pretty, but it's still good. Just a nice, warm, hearty stew. That's in there because there's some things everyone wants to make everything special and they get so stressed out. But man, my favorite Christmas was the guy Christmas or the guy Thanksgiving, which was a bunch of guys get together. We don't care how it looks. We care about the food. You put it all up there. And then I went over to some friends one time and there were three brothers. They're getting over and he says, he was making mashed potatoes. So you better get some food. I said, no, I feel polite and go over here. He says, look, motherfucker, you better get some food on there. Otherwise I'll all be gone. I'm like, okay. And then all we would do is watch either football or movies. We'd just hang out, play video games. I mean, those to me are the best Christmases. And then we would say like, you know what? We haven't sat down. And so we just put stuff on there. It's just, break some bread. It's just, it's a low key Christmas because guys don't care if it looks perfect. They care if it tastes good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 30th when my uncle is doing a low country boil for me.
Oh,
for my birthday.
Oh
yeah,
man. I haven't gone to a decent boil in years.
Yeah. Well, I think our crawfish boil tends to come out, but that's a little bit later in the year. Or a good crab boil.
Gonna have that low country boil. Gonna have some crawfish, some shrimps, sausage, corn, and potatoes.
Oh yeah. It's funny because all these people want their traditional turkey, and I said, well, my mom always overcooked the turkey, and it was horrible. And then we'd have horribly dried out turkey for 3 days, and I would lose weight because I wouldn't eat during those 3 days until the turkey was gone. And so Christmas and Thanksgiving were not my favorite until my mother started making lasagna for Christmas. That was good. I was like, oh, I'll take that. Give me the lasagna. Yeah, I can see the cuddles looking at it.
Today for dinner, I had 2 steaks, some ham, a turkey leg, some regular fried shrimp. Yeah, I ate a lot of meat today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see. I had yesterday some sausage. Do I have anything left? I think I'm saving some stuff up for my son, but my realtor gave me a gift box, which is fine because, when I bought it, let's see, we've got cheddar cheese.
Nice.
And these I'm saving up for my son because he likes them, and then sticks, but they also had a couple of sausages and beef jerky, which of course I tore into. And then I had, what is it called? They call them chicken ticklers or rattlesnake eggs. Basically, they're you put pepper jack cheese with a jalapeno inside, wrapped in chicken breast, and then wrapped with bacon.
Damn, I need that. Good.
Yeah, it does. That does. Well, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'll probably have that a little bit later. So if the fire line goes off, you'll know.
Oh, and James, Merry Christmas, buddy.
Yeah. No, James, why don't you jump in? I got a couple questions for you that only an Australian could answer.
Well, yeah. Well, it's his day after Christmas now for him.
I want to know if it's true. If it's true about what I've heard about Santa Claus down in Australia. I heard rumors that he can no longer be the Coca-Cola Santa Claus. He has to be in shape, and he can no longer say "ho ho ho" because those are derogatory terms. I don't know if it's true or not, but there is an Australian in chat. Wink, wink.
Oh, I can talk about food all day.
I'm chilling in the Santa shirt, man.
You got the beard. I'm telling you, when DM James cut off early, I'm like, well, someone has to go fly around the world.
I've been going on Omegle for the last few days and just playing Christmas music.
Oh,
Dressed up like Santa Claus, just to mess with people.
Right. Danger Mouse. Hey,
Shut up, you beautiful bastard.
hey, Danger Mouse. I haven't seen that long. Where's Penfold?
Oh, she's in the kitchen.
Barely.
Okay.
She's in the
See, I
kitchen.
watched that cartoon too in the 1980s.
Happy day.
I
after
remember it
Christmas.
barely.
It's boiling here. I've got my lemonade.
Oh, you know what? I think it finally got up to 41 here.
Y'all can kiss my ass.
Yeah, it's
Oh, no.
41 here. It's
Hey,
41 here in Orlando today, but wind chill factor is about 20.
Oh, and it's gonna snow! Yay! Fuck
Hey,
my life.
Hey,
It's
you know
about
what?
100. It's about 100 degrees in your money. Yeah, at least. At least.
You know what? When I was in Chicago, it got down to minus 15 2 years in a row, and I'm like, this sucks. And what the sad thing was, being
You're
from
in Chicago.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was. But what got me about the whole thing, and I have to laugh about this, was even though I'm from the South, I said, look, I know I'm going to complain, but you people that have grown up here, you're the biggest whiners in the world.
That is true.
I went to college in North Dakota, and the first time I walked outside the negative 80 wind chill factors, I did not go to any classes that day.
It's like heat though. It's when it's like a moist heat, it's miserable for everybody. When it's a dry heat like Arizona or other places that's dry heat, you're just hot.
Look, I've been to deserts, and I'm not a desert person. I would rather live in the swamps than the desert.
I live in Florida, 100% humidity in the summer.
Well, you live in Florida, and your biggest sin down in Florida is the ever-coming Florida man.
Florida man is a national hero.
What questions do you have? What questions do you have about Santa Claus?
Yeah, I got questions about jolly old Nick.
Yeah.
Now, I heard stories that about maybe 10 years ago that you guys had to give your Santa Claus a uplift, a reboot, where he could no longer be fat. He had to look like a surfer, be in great shape, and he could no longer say ho ho ho.
I don't remember this.
Is your Santa Claus fat?
Maybe somewhere this happened. I mean, is Santa still a big thing? Really? I don't know.
It is for kids.
It is for kids.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of went in bat for other holidays that are roughly around this month. That if you're getting Christmas off, they need to get Hanukkah off. They need to get Kwanzaa off. All the,
You know what though? I looked at it. Look, and I, working for government, most of the people take a bunch of weeks off in Christmas because they have use or lose leave.
Well, that's fair. I'm just thinking for the kids.
And what gets me about it is there was the traditional holidays because like all construction stops for 2 weeks. All the workers just pick up and leave. And they're like, even if we wanted to work during this time, they couldn't. But what gets me about the whole thing is, first off, my friend is Jewish, and he's like, Hanukkah really doesn't mean anything. That's not his big holiday. That's what gets me about a lot of this stuff. It's people making these into the holidays because like, well, they feel excluded. Look, I've lived in Iraq, and guess what? I guess what a national holiday is. Christmas. It's all these people who hate on
Yeah,
Christmas.
in the Arab world, they really get into Christmas. Surprisingly, like for the Christians, it's like obviously still a big thing. But even in like places like Dubai, like the touristy, more commercial side of it, they kind of get into just for the
money.
Spectacle of having an ice rink in the desert and stuff like that.
I would love to
They're
see an ice rink in the freaking
They're
desert.
surprisingly more into it than you would expect. Like
The
it's
Japanese
kind of
are
like,
the same
oh,
way.
Hmm?
The
The
Japanese
Japanese,
are just crazy about Christmas.
yeah.
But what's weird is they eat KFC during Christmas.
Mm.
That's their big Christmas dinner, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. When I got off of work today, I was looking for a Chinese restaurant to be open. I really was. I was going to have a traditional Christmas story dinner. It was going to be amazing.
Man,
All
I
the
have
Chinese-
been
that's
so
what-
I've
that's-
been so miserly. I've been so miserly and restrained with the food. Normally, like I'd eat like a horse anyway, but just something about Christmas, like seeing how much stuff got put out at lunchtime and how much people were going back for more and more. I was like, no, I'm just going to have one small plate of food and not feel like death warmed up afterwards.
We went to a buffet, Golden Corral. I ate 2 big ass steaks, a turkey leg, like 4 pieces of ham, a fried chicken leg, a half pound of freaking shrimp, and dessert.
I just try to stay
That's
away
quite
from
an effort. I mean, I'm a hefty guy, but yeah, that would take some going at.
Well, a buddy of ours paid for it, and I wanted to make sure to get his money's worth.
Mm.
For me though is I'm like, well, I still have like 4 steaks in the refrigerator I need to season up. I have what I really wanted to make was some I've been lazy about some chicken tikka masala.
Oh yeah,
I've tried to make that a handful of times.
I love Indian food.
I made it and it actually turned out pretty well, but I'll tell you this much. Getting fresh ginger, I'm never doing that again. Where I'm like
That's not that bad.
Well, my little micro
it's great to chew on a bit. If your stomach's upset, just chewing on a little bit is quite good.
I love ginger. My problem is that I don't use it often enough to justify it unless I'm going to make a special dish.
I have 2 of them. I don't know, one here and one over there. But your grandma style cheese grinder cowbell fucker.
Yep.
And I just take I wash the grains, I wash the outside of the ginger really well, and I just done. I mean,
well, the problem is I used a whole thing of ginger, and I was like, and by the time it got down, and then I cooked it, and now, to be fair, it was really good, and I got the garam masala. I mean, it turned out really well for us.
I think I'm using just the wrong yogurt.
Well, I used just whole fat Greek yogurt.
Dude, nice.
Oh yeah. See, that's well. And the funny thing is I try to avoid, for the most part, sugar. For the most part, I'm not great, but and I know that Hungar appreciates this, but key lime pie to me is the best pie for any season.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I
don't do dessert. Nope. You want dessert? I am not the person to come to.
No,
My
I just buy it
kids.
in the store. The funny thing is you can buy it in the store as good as you can make it.
Hey guys, talk amongst yourselves. I gotta take this really quick.
Okay, sure.
My diet's immaculate except for all the sugar.
We asked our
Right.
kids, me and Max asked
You
the
know.
kids what they wanted for dinner today. And the first thing they said was Chinese food.
I don't like Chinese food. I'm not a big fan
I'm
of rice.
quite happy eating salads and vegetables and all of that stuff, but I have such a weakness for sweet things. It's terrible.
I can't eat salads and vegetables, so I have to eat meat.
You know what though? Here's the big thing is I know that Hungar, you're what, a type 2 diabetic or type 1?
Yeah.
Type 2. Well, for type 2, pretty much if they can go keto, that helps a lot. Whereas if they go, and the problem is you have to like stay away from all that sugar, and that's the hard part. But you know, my big weakness is a bread. Man, this time of the year, I would love to have just a good stew, a bread bowl, and you know that I don't need all the super fancy stuff. That's what gets me. All these people have the super fancy stuff, and I've seen women, especially Eastern European women, and they get so stressed out trying to make the perfect cookies and everything. And I'm just going, no, I don't want that. Make it as stress free as possible, which is why they hire someone like Connell.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you. As much as I'm Catholic, and there's going to be a few people in this chat that might say I'm the wrong side of the Catholic, I have to say the Orthodox Catholic makes the best cookies this time of the year. The baklava, oh my god!
I'm not a huge. It's funny as I grew up, and my grandmother used to make baklava and everything. I'm not a big fan of baklava. I'm not.
I don't get it all the time, so it's a rare. You know, I get sugar cookies, I get gingerbread. You know, the traditional Western European desserts. That's what I get. But you know, oh my god. Anyways, my daughter just called and wanted to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and thank you for putting up with her dad.
Awesome.
Oh,
yeah, I figured
awesome.
it out. I haven't eaten them.
I'm gonna let you guys get back to it because I'm pretty sore, but I'll catch up with you properly very soon.
All righty, buddy.
Yeah. All right. I need to lie down. Okay.
All right. Take care.
I figured it out. I haven't eaten any vegetables since I got out of the hospital last time. And I've not had any issues with my stomach since I got out of the hospital last time. Yeah, because every time I eat vegetables, it always blocks up my intestines.
Yeah.
My body doesn't digest them.
Yeah, the meat is really digestible. I mean, I cook with tallow and all that other stuff, and it's fine because my cholesterol, my triglycerides are super low.
So it's going to be steak and vitamins for you for the rest of your life.
Well, I eat noodles, ramen. I eat ramen.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying by what he just said. Well, with you being diabetic, corn's out,
bread,
most fruits out.
Yeah.
And you should stop eating desserts. That's the big one.
I don't eat a lot of desserts. I might have desserts once a year.
Okay.
I mostly eat noodles, cheese, and meat because my body digests those. It doesn't digest anything else, which I really hate because I love Brussels sprouts. I love asparagus. I love vegetables. I would punch somebody in the throat for a Caesar salad if I could digest.
Depends on the day. I'm right there with you. I could go for a good Caesar salad.
You know what? If someone tries to give me Caesar salad instead of a real meal, I'll punch them in the throat.
It's like I grew up saying that I was a meatitarian, but I'd eat all the vegetables. And now I have to be a meatitarian, and I crave vegetables.
Well,
it's a catch-22. It really is. I mean, my favorite thing to do food-wise, when I know I'm going to have a heavy day, is get a container from my Kroger's or wherever of baby spinach with mixed greens, right? Get myself a center cut of salmon, dice that up, throw that on top of it, and use this was it honey ginger dressing? It's a Japanese one. Throw that on top of it, give a really good shake like a newborn, and then I eat it.
I like my babies like I like my martinis.
Shake it like a martini. That sounds a whole lot better.
No, I think you need to do what was the scene in Airplane where they come over and then they slap her and then they
I should be careful with talking about kids. I think Shadow's still kind of sore with me.
I remember the best part of Airplane was when that little cute white lady's like, "Oh, stewardess, I speak jive." Homeboy don't get no help. Shit.
No. My favorite is when the Airplane's so great because the jokes are so fast you can watch them over and over and over, which is great. But the part where where he starts deflating, so she has to blow him up and go, and so she goes down, and then you see his smile come on the autopilot's face.
Do you like movies about gladiators?
Speaking of movies, what is your guys' favorite anti-Christmas movie? When I say anti, I'm not talking about it's dragging the concept of Christmas in the dirt. I'm
No.
talking about the classics. First Blood, Die Hard, Gremlins, Ghostbusters, The
So-
Thing.
Wait a minute,
Gremlins,
Ghostbusters 2 was the one during Christmas, wasn't it?
No, it was the first one.
Gremlins, and
It might be both
Die
of them,
Hard are
honestly.
Christmas movies.
Right. Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon 1's also a Christmas movie too.
Nightmare Before Christmas is my
Oh,
favorite.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
I Nightmare Before Christmas, but that one, despite all that, well, what about Batman Returns?
That's a
Batman
good one.
Returns.
I enjoyed that one, which a lot of people like, oh, it was horrifying, but I thought it was hilarious watching it. When he was playing, when Danny DeVito playing Cobblepot,
Yeah.
bite the person's nose. I was just, I still enjoy that one, though I haven't seen it in 30 years.
One of the Rocky movies is technically a Christmas movie. I can't remember which one it is. No, it's the fourth one. Where he's going going against the Russian. If he
Yeah,
dies,
Everybody
he dies.
says that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, and I just have to tell them they're wrong.
All of
Well,
the
yeah.
well, first and second were both Christmas movies. The second one was actually the Blizzard, but no, I here's the thing though. For Christmas, and I'm sick of it, and this sounds so funny. I normally get so overwhelmed with the Christmas, is I'm just like, get it away from me. Just get it away from me. I don't want to deal with it. My son, in the meantime, wants to play Christmas music all the time. Like, that's fine. Whatever makes him happy. But when you talk about anti-Christmas, I want to watch stuff that's not your normal feel-good crap. I mean, that's one of the reasons I did like Scrooge, but like we talked about it last week was, I don't want the nice, sweet thing at the end, because really my life is really sweet and good for the most part anyway. I want some really dark comedies. I really do. I still want to see, I don't think the good reviews, but I'd like to see it the first part of Scrooge where he comes in with the guns, with Lee Majors. That was that's probably one of my favorite parts for that but Gremlins, okay, there's that one. The one I'd like to see is The Fat Man.
Oh, with Mel Gibson and the guy from Justified. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, I heard about it. I heard it got mixed reviews, but
Mel Gibson, until his dying day, will get mixed reviews because of that his incident.
Well, yeah, this is multiple.
I give zero shits about that incident.
You know what though, is my friend can worry about stuff, but at the end of the day, actually, I mean, he's probably the one guy I could probably hang out with this day without having. Well, no, his family's his in-laws do the whole Christmas thing, but he really doesn't. But he's Jewish, so he's like, I get a day off. He's like, oh, I love working this time of the year because no one's around here to bug me. What's that?
I want to see Violent Night.
Best movie ever.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it twice, and I barely ever see anymore. There was a long time where I would go see a movie multiple times just to catch everything I missed. But here recently, I haven't done it. Here in the last couple of years, I see a movie once, and I'll wait 40 days or whatever, then buy it or download it, whatever. But Violent Night, I had to see it twice. I had to see it. It made me believe in Santa Claus again.
No, what is Violent Night? I'm not familiar.
Oh God, it's a Santa Claus movie where Santa gets violent.
You know what though? That was one of the things I did love about American Dad during all the Christmas stuff. Like one time they had the Antichrist come back, and he has the guns, and then the other year where Jeff was going to be a good boy and he's going where he gives Steve the gun and they accidentally shoot Santa, and like they try burying him. And then Santa comes back. He's like, I know what you did. And the whole thing with the flying reindeer going around as they're shooting the guns and the candy canes. Oh, see, that's the stuff that I love. That, yeah, okay, that's not family Christmas. Yes, that's not something I should watch with my son. We'll go watch A Christmas Story. But come on, nothing warms my heart than just making me laugh.
Well, even the Christmas Story back in the day, it was almost a very anti-Christmas movie because it didn't hit the appropriate notes. It had a lot in common with what a good Christmas should be, but a good Christmas doesn't have a woman's thigh in it. A good Christmas doesn't have him saying the F word, a good Christmas, doesn't have them beating up the bully or, so forth and so on. It wasn't technically a Hallmark Christmas movie. And this is what a lot of people want, is this happy, ever-go-lucky Christmas movie that drive me up the damn wall.
I want for a real Christmas movie. I don't want all this happy bullshit, because life is not happy bullshit.
But I think that's why people are doing it, so they can escape from their unhappy. Like I said, I just love the dark sense of humor, whether it's the Married with Children and stuff. I
love Married with Children back in the day.
Because it's funny, because it doesn't match my real life. And that was one. Titus was another one for the first 2 seasons.
Got canceled after the first 2 seasons.
Well, the third season, Fox really shot itself in the foot with Firefly and Titus and a bunch of other stuff that was really good.
Titus was great.
Oh, I love that whole thing. Well, I love it when he's sitting back. He's like, "What are you gonna do about it, old man?" He says, "I didn't realize he was just resting." Then he put the fist cam.
Well, in that one show they had Shasta McNasty. That show was hilarious.
Oh,
yeah.
Remember In Living Color? That. In Living Color was hilarious too.
Yeah.
Well, Living Color made it up too. I mean, for what it was, it actually survived Fox. It was just a lot of their main cast were going off to go to movie land, and it's not like Saturday Night Live where they had a new crop of comedians to fall in on.
Well, it was done by the Wayans family. They had like 7 members in there, and apparently they had a falling out with Fox, and so all the members left. Yeah, and so Fox tried to keep it going, but it just isn't the same without the Wayans brothers. To be fair,
I'm going to bounce out.
All right, Hungar, you get some sleep.
Thanks for having me on. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you guys had a great day. Have a great rest of the year, and see you guys Monday on my noon show with Shadow and Son.
All right.
I might have to jump in and say howdy.
You are more than welcome. You guys are more than welcome to come on.
All right. Well, thanks, Hungar.
Thank you.
Later, guys. Good night, man. Merry Christmas.
You too. Bye. The other one I enjoyed but I can't watch it more than once. Some of these movies was Bad Santa. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, Bad Santa.
Oh, come on. He's like, I was beating these 13-year-old kids up.
I have nothing against Bad Santa. I think it's a good anti-Christmas one.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it had the woman from the Gilmore Girls in it. I can't think of what her real name is.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I don't really care what her name is.
I always found her for being an older woman, being fairly attractive.
Yeah. So like I said, I enjoy a lot of these things. They're just, you talked about anti-Christmas. I said, okay. Sometimes I do like some of the other stuff, but here's the problem that I have with it. They start getting the sappy end at about the last 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm just like, look, you were so funny for the first hour. It's the last 30 minutes where I'm like, I'm not laughing. It's just, you're trying to make everyone feel good. And I just that's why I liked Married with Children, where he did the It's a Wonderful Life.
Life with Sam.
Yeah. Sam Kinison. And they're like, oh man. And he looks at like how much better everyone else's life would have been without him. And he's going, no, I want to come back to make their lives as miserable as they made. I was like, oh, okay. That's the stuff that I want to see. Is I want to see the really dark black humor for that, which they're just everyone is so afraid to do that now. Here's a funny thing, comedy is usually offensive. Well, one is it's if it's relatable, and if it's offensive is what makes comedy so funny.
Right. I don't know what people. It's like I wasn't fighting, but I was arguing with the guy I worked with that they were playing Santa Baby. I'm like, I hate that song. I
hate that song too.
I hate that song, and everybody's like, he's like, it's a great song. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, what's your favorite Christmas song? I'm like, Baby, It's Cold Outside.
Oh, I'm trying to think of what are some of my favorite songs. Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Right.
What was the Night Santa Went Berserk by Weird Al?
I don't know that one. I have to look into that one.
Yeah, it's basically when you're talking about Santa decides to go berserk. He starts shooting up all the elves and Donner and Blitzen. They did that one. Then what was the other one? Christmas at Ground Zero, which I think that everyone has to play if they're going to play Mutant Crawl Classics. Has to go Christmas at Ground Zero. That's yeah. The air raid sirens play. I mean, it's hilarious. I love Weird Al for that stuff.
Oh, I love Weird Al. Don't get me wrong. I can listen to a lot of his music.
Yeah.
There's a few songs I just can't anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna be making some pork, so.
Ooh. I was lucky enough, and my mom made me homemade lemon poppy seed bread.
Ooh, yeah, that does sound good. Now, no offense, Connell, is your mom still around?
Yeah, mom's still around.
Okay. I wasn't sure. We never talked about that, so.
Yeah. Me and my mom get along pretty well. She's just as cranky as I am.
My mother for the longest time was anti-Christmas too. Her big season was Halloween. She loved Halloween, and so they give like full-size candy bars during Halloween.
Well, my mom, in all her sweetness, I'm trying to say this with a straight face, in all her sweetness, she absolutely hates gaming. She hates all forms of gaming. She thinks it's a waste of time and another excuse for people to sit on their ass and get fat.
You know what? She's probably true. That's probably true, but
And over the years, I've just learned there's no point in arguing with her. Others say, "Yeah, I guess I'm gonna gain another about 5 pounds tonight." How's that? I'm gonna go play games.
Oh, okay. Well, the funny thing is whether people realize it or not, gaming is why I started doing fencing, and and I did that when I was 30. I learned some archery. I didn't do really well, but I had fun. But I learned archery. I did that. It helped me with math. It helped me escape whenever I was really stressed out in the world. It was a stress reliever. Sometimes people just forget that stuff.
Oh yeah, I said this to a friend earlier today. I wish I had go back in time theory, right?
Sure.
And I had enough force sense to put a bow in my hand. Oh, James, don't worry about it, man. I know that you're, when you're hurting, you're hurting. No one here is going to think any less of it.
Hey, James, take care of your health first. We're not like young kids anymore. At this point, we'd rather see you for years instead of watching you in like the hospital.
I was ready to say, screw you. I'm still a young kid.
I remember those days when I was in my late 30s.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll see if this caused the smoke alarm to go off.
That is not a cooking alarm.
For me, it is. I just need to clean out the oven. I mean, I set for 350, and it still sometimes smokes. I'll tell you this much is I may have to play the lottery, but if I win on an off chance, I'm building myself a really nice house, and it doesn't even have to be big.
Oh God, I was on Facebook, and I'm attached to this page that shows you like some really nice houses. And there's this one up in Michigan. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Hell yeah! Wait, hold on.
I'm trying to get rid of that stupid light. There we go.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's up in Michigan. They're wanting like $500,000 for it.
Yeah,
but it's like 7 bedrooms. Was it 7 bedrooms, 6.5 baths, sitting on 8,086 square feet. They want $500,000 for it, which you might as well just say $1 million after everything's said and done.
Wait a minute. For $500,000, what's wrong with the house? That's my first question.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The other half just figure out what's ever wrong with the house.
Yep.
And it's built like the British castle fort style. It's up in Michigan. Well, I think it's going cheap because Michigan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Michigan is not doing too hot anymore.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I also saw. Sorry if I'm muting because I'm,
Yeah.
puzzled in here. Now, it depends on where you are in Michigan. I've heard in Missouri there's some really cheap places too.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's great if you're retired. I've been, but I need to go plant some. Oh, good. I need to go plant some of my pomegranates. So I'm going to take probably a week off in January and just dig some big holes and put them in the ground. And then maybe next Christmas, I'll actually have like real pomegranates I can give out for this time of the year.
See, I don't. I'm not saying No, I am saying this. I'm not a material oriented person. I like things. I like money. But if I don't have things and I have enough money to make it through Monday through Friday, I'm fine with that. But at the same time, if I could do the Tom Cruise risky business through a mansion, I'm not going to say no. D&D games would be awesome to have in a mansion that looks like a damn castle.
Actually, yeah. I mean, that would be awesome. But then part of me just goes, okay, well, how many people can you fit into a house? What is it like?
I live in an apartment, so less.
well, no, you think about it, but let's be honest. Let's say that we all decide to go meet together at a place. I mean, I could kind of deal with bunk beds and stuff like that, as long as I have a big kitchen. And, it's like, well, we're going to be playing for like 2 days straight anyway. As long as there's like a back bedroom where if you have to go get some sleep and rest and then just rotate around. And then you have a big screen TV, like 88 inches or whatever they have, and you play video games in the meantime. I remember, boy, as a kid, that was a lot of fun. We used to do... I think it was Halo 2. We were round robining. I think we were playing Legendary, and so each of us was going over. And when one person's hand got tired, they would go to the next one, and then we would rotate sleeping. So two people were always playing on the split screen for like 24 hours.
That's awesome.
That was in my 30s. I mean, that wasn't even so.
That's awesome. No, See, my biggest fear now is if we all met up, which I really do hope that does happen. But a lot of you bastards know that I cook, and I don't want a working vacation.
You know what, though, is I think that, so years ago, I think when my son was born, and I brought him all over to my ex's house, and we went over and, she was breastfeeding and everything else. And I just invited my friends. I said, hey, look, come on over. And I said, I have steaks. And then they brought they bought asparagus and all sorts of other stuff. And so there were 3 of us in there just cooking our own little dish and whatever we wanted. And at the end, we're just like, oh, this is cool. And what was funny was she was less stressed out when my friends came over than when her friends came over because she didn't have to entertain them. So she could do whatever she wants. She's like, hi, talk for a bit and then leave. And then, we can always talk about, personalities, but actually, I remember I bought my son a telescope, which reminds me, I need to tell him to pull out his telescope. We were looking at Comet Neowise. No, it was the conjunction, where Saturn, they were really close. And actually with the telescope, they looked like they were about this far apart, but the naked eye, they were dead. And it was pretty cool overall when we looked at it. We were there with my friend. And then we had to leave, and my ex went, you guys are leaving? I'm like, yeah, he has another hour drive home once we get home, which she was an hour away from me. And I said, and I've got work. And I said, yeah, we got to go. And it's like, so, we get along well enough. And actually, I may be able to rope her in to help me dig in some holes for the pomegranates because she wants pomegranates. and I have 8 of these trees that I need to put in the ground. And trees can produce anywhere from 50 to 150 pomegranates. So, yeah. Hey, yeah. And what are pomegranates going for? $2, $2
to $3, depends on where you're getting them from.
I was like, hell, I'll sell them for $1 each. I can make a little bit of money off of this. Yeah. Hey, look, I'll
I don't
sell
know
you.
if you guys have a farmer's market where you're at, but see if you could just sell a box to who's ever selling them, and he can mark them up any which way he wants. You get the money, and he gets a profit.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I
I
don't
mean,
see wrong with it.
any money you're getting right now once they go up is, well, I don't know what it takes to take care of a palm. I'm thinking water is going to be. Are they one of those plants that like to suffer?
I'll put it this way. I was in Afghanistan where it got super cold, up to 120 degrees during the summer, and it wouldn't rain for 4 months, and yet they had pomegranates.
Oh, they're a suffering tree. Gotcha. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, and this is that was part of the reason. The same thing with jujubes, which I have in the house right now because I didn't want them to quite freeze. But yeah, the pomegranates are supposed to, and I made sure they got drought hardy and what's the other, and cold hardy pomegranates. The wonderfuls that you buy in the stores, they produce great, but the problem with them is that they aren't as sturdy. Whereas the ones I bought are like, look, you can kind of ignore and abuse them. And everyone says they grow great down here. So I'm surprised there aren't more pomegranate stuff. Everyone here wants to plant like plums and peaches, all the stone fruits.
I had this guy, really religious guy, but he's really smart religious. I'm not saying religious people are dumb, but he's like really educated into it. And he's like, we're talking about the story of Adam and Eve. He's like, I don't think there was an apple that got. I don't. If the fruit wise, I don't think it was an apple. And I'm like, what do you think it was? I honestly, if it's going to be that part of the world, well, the part of the world we think it was, it would have been a pomegranate.
So this is what I've heard is that the Latin word for pomegranate is the same as apple.
That big red round.
So people confuse it when they say, well, it's an apple. That's why most historians think it's pomegranate because the word was the same for both fruits.
Right. It makes sense. I mean,
I'd much rather have a pomegranate over an apple. I do not like apples. I used to be like, oh, you need to get apples.
Pomegranates, unless you know actually how to treat them correctly, is a lot of freaking work. I just use cold water, a spoon, and a bowl underneath, and just.
That's what you're supposed to do. The other one I love when I was in Canada, the problem is that you have to be further south here, is that, what's it called? Is dragon fruit. But you need to be in Houston or further south.
I've never been all that impressed with dragon fruit. I'll use them for decoration. They make good looking dice.
But here's the problem that I have with it is just peaches and everything else. The stuff you get in the stores are picked about a week or two too early.
Oh yeah, tomatoes. Pick your color.
Well, what amazes me is, even though we're all talking about this, and I'm thinking about putting some planter boxes or something, and we're maybe growing tomatoes out here. Tomatoes grow great. I know when I was in Chicago, the people I was renting from, they turned their whole backyard into a garden, which was only like a 30 by 30 area. It wasn't even that big. And I mean, they had tons of tomato plants and kale and all sorts of stuff. I think that's one thing that I get sometimes frustrated about is all of these homeowners associations and all these other things. I would rather people turn their yards into, for gardening rather than just having these perfectly manicured lawns.
I know in Arizona, I have a buddy who lives in Arizona, and citric fruits like lemons, hey, multi-gun man, lemons, oranges, things like that. For some trees, for one reason or the other, attract scorpions.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
So it's a catch-22. Yay! I have lemons. I have oranges. Oh crap! I have scorpions.
I don't know. I mean, it was in Texas. I saw plenty of people with scorpions, and we didn't have anything. But I think sometimes it may be that they put the mulch down and everything, and then the scorpions are hunting for stuff in the mulch. So there could be a lot of stuff like that.
I do not have a green thumb. I have a black thumb. This plant can't die. Give it to Connell.
I overwatered my plants initially, so I lost a couple $100 worth of plants. But because I was trying to get some trees, and fortunately, I didn't plant them last year because we had severe drought. which now the problem is that it's been raining so much that I can't go out to plant anything because my everything's too muddy. I need to call the farmer up and have him drill about 3 feet down, and then get my ex to use her truck, and then I'll just put a bunch of mulch and everything in there and get ready to go. And if I can put out 10 or 15 plants, I'll be happy. I mean, I have 3 jujubes, 8 pomegranates, a couple of apricots, a couple of cherries. I have the star cherries, which I think I'm just going to keep in the house because they don't get that high. They get about 3 to 6 feet high. And then I have a couple of Kalamata olives. Not Kalamata.
So
the olive trees.
Yeah, I love me a good olive.
No,
I was a weird kid. My grandma would eat these olive salads, which was basically nothing more than 5 or 6 different olives cut up with olive oil on them. And I just thought that was the best thing ever.
What's wrong with that? I think that sometimes, part of the reason I would like to start making my own. Not that I use that much olive oil now because I like using tallow, but I like to just, I like to have stuff that is more. I don't want to be too hippie, but I do think that there's a lot of benefit for the organic, not this super sprayed everything else. And that's what I want to put on the edge. And we'll see. I say this.
No, I completely agree. I think a greener approach to our food would probably be a whole lot better. I mean, I know saying you're going vegan, and planting organic stuff murders all the animals in the ground and around the ground. But there's got to be a halfway road, and I could be wrong about that. But there's got to be a halfway where you can do this without murdering everything in the surrounding area.
Well, I think part of it is what I want to say is we've gotten so far away because we get stuff in the stores. But I did not like Whole Foods. I thought it was it was my view of plenary indulgence for the environmental guilt.
Yeah.
Maybe because the people that go there, I'm a good person because I shop at Whole Foods. Like, no, you aren't. You're not a good person just because you go shop at Whole Foods. You're just wasting money so you can feel good about yourself, and you're just as polluting as the rest of us. And stop acting like you aren't. I'd rather get taste, and that's the big part. Some of the organic stuff, I think sometimes tastes better, just depending on when it's done. Now, I used to get so mad when I see food deserts. They'd have these ads on TV that a food desert, and it says, well, you can't get fresh fruits and vegetables. I went, first off, if you're poor, you want something frozen so it doesn't go bad. Number one. Number two, it's a lot cheaper to freeze it. And number three is some of the freshest berries and things are IQF. Yeah, exactly, Calvione. But yeah. I mean, I can do things like rosemary. I can plant like mint. I mean, there's a lot. I just have to put up because we have neighbors out here that have all these flowers. I'm like, why don't I just put up these window boxes and just start planting all of the spices and things? And that's what I would rather do. I still want to do mushrooms. Man, some of them are hard to find, but I love oyster mushrooms. Good oyster mushrooms.
Oh yeah. When I was living in Tennessee, there was a guy, farmer's market, which me naturally, if it does not come from a grocery store, I do not buy mushrooms because I am not a botanist. I'm pretty sure the person who's picking said mushrooms is not a botanist. But I'm like, those look okay. I'm doing this with the phone, looking at it, doing this with the phone, flipping the mushroom over, making sure all the gills and everything is right. Yeah. Like, all right, here's my X amount of money. I'm going to trust that these are not A, going to kill me, or B, give me the shits. And they're really good. And the guy knew what he was looking for. I mean, I live up in Illinois, so morel season's a thing.
Oh, I have morels or morels here.
Whatever they're called, yeah.
Well, yeah, I have some, but I haven't done it. So let's see. Just so you can, because my friends sometimes get into these things. Where's I have one more book. I can't find it. It's probably somewhere else. But anyway,
you get some eggs. Just a little bit of milk. Oh yeah. I don't even listen. And that's probably a great deal. And that's probably helps a lot of people. But with my vision issues, I'm just not going to screw around with it.
No. Well, part of what my friend talks about is don't get the mushrooms that have caps. Like oyster mushrooms don't have caps.
Right. Or the chicken of the woods doesn't have caps.
Yeah, because
Shadow mushrooms don't have caps. They're just big. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the easiest ones. Lion's mane. I mean, these are all easy to identify. And somewhere around here, I have the mushrooms of Texas, but like chanterelles to me are awesome. I love chanterelle.
I mean, I just rather buy them. I mean, it's one of the few things, like I said, because I've heard horror story after horror story of people mistaking, well, this Kentucky mushroom looks this way over here, but this poisonous mushroom looks the same way over here.
So here are my morel mushrooms, which I don't know how to cook. So I've just...
Are they dried out?
Yes.
I will get back to you on Discord and see what I can find on that one.
I need to figure out, and then over here, which a lot of times I just blend them up. These are my dried chanterelle mushrooms. So I need to figure out how to use these at some point. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just because they aren't picking the best ones, but I was like, well, you can rehydrate them, but man, every time I do it, they're still chewy. Yeah, which is the problem that I have with whatever's going on there. So
let them cook in a stew for a couple days. I mean,
you know what I do is I put them in the blender and I turn them into a powder, and then I kind of either add them to the soups or to my spaghetti sauce or something. But
I could not get fresh portobello mushrooms for the life of me. I could not get fresh ones.
They're all down here. That's why I was asking.
Right. It was just holidays. I couldn't get fresh ones to save my life. But I could get dried ones. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to powder these, as you're doing. And I made what I do is normally get the mushrooms, cut those up, cook them down, put 1 or 2 sticks of cream cheese in there to melt it down to, start stirring it, so a base. Then I'll get a type of sausage. This one, I'm going to say sausage. I'm not going to say what kind. And a type of bacon. Cut that up, throw that in there, throw some little bit mozzarella, whatever cheese of choice, and it's a dip.
Yeah, sounds good.
I couldn't get the fresh ones, so I'm like, I'm going to do everything else and just throw the mushroom dust powder on it and just go that way. And I turned it into a paste, and I got a frosting bag, and I put into jalapenos.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And then I, did that, and it went over really well. I couldn't eat them because I can't have jalapenos, but my clients really liked it.
Oh, really? You just can't take the heat, or you just
allergic to capsaicin.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to be careful of that, because when you mentioned that, like, well, I eat a lot of stuff with it. Yeah, I just
nothing personally, but if a bunch of us get together, and if I'm not cooking it, I'm not eating it. There's no offense to anybody else, but people add spices to it and not thinking, because you're making it the way that you're used to. And if you're used to throwing some cayenne or some whatever, not thinking twice about it, and this is not, this is nothing personal to you or anybody else. It's just the way I've learned how to deal with things. And honestly, if I got in the same kitchen with you, I can see us playing mad scientists.
Oh, well, there'd be some. Well, I enjoy some of these things. Like I said, with the steaks, it's just basic. I mean, I say it's basic, but when you add up everything, it's like, okay, there's a lot of spices, but onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, some oregano powder, thyme powder, rosemary, and
that sounds nice. I normally do salt, garlic, pepper, garlic powder, cumin.
I don't use cumin because I don't want that. I like it for fajitas, but I don't want the cumin on my steak.
To each their own. I mean, once again, this is kind of where if I'm going anywhere where somebody offers to make me food, I'm like, no, I appreciate it. But
well, again, it's one of those things like, here, let me look at what we're going to be using, and it's one of these things that, like, my friends always look over, and I always get these big steaks. You've seen it, having steaks, and I hand them off to usually a couple, and they can never finish it off. I'm like, here, I'll eat the rest because I'm not letting it go to waste.
No, you wrap it up, you put it in the refrigerator for the next day, you get your salad, you slice up whatever left. I mean, cut off the, bits that have been chewed on, but whatever, and you shave it, then you throw that on top of a salad, or you make a grilled cheese with it, or ...
Oh. Yeah,
especially with lamb.
Well, you know what, those I liked making a big hulking thing of lamb. And I probably put way too much garlic compared to most people. Like, well, I'm Greek. I'm used to, but I would, and they said, well, it doesn't cook. Well, I slow cook it for a long, long time. So it's almost like it. But what would I do is I would marinate it for 3 days with lemon juice and olive oil and all the spices and everything else in there and slather. And then, of course, olive oil kind of congeals. So then I slather it on top. And leg of lamb used to be cheap. But now I'm like, what the hell?
I don't know why this is. I realize this. If you live in a Muslim, not heavy area, but Muslim friendly area, lamb is normally a little bit cheaper.
Well, Arabs, when I lived in Iraq for the year, really the only difference between the Christians and the Muslims and what they ate was the Christians would have alcohol. That was really the only. Well, and
I thought pork was a no-no.
Well, most of them, what's interesting is, and people forget about this, they pretty much eat the same. When you look at it, it's lamb and it's the same one. Now, I know in Egypt, some of the Coptic Christians would have pork. And my friend who lived in Kuwait said, I said, Muslims don't eat pork. He said, yes, they do. They just, it's kind of illegal, kind of thing. But where he lived in, like I said, he lived in Kuwait. But it just depends on what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, I think that pork is more European. Boy, when you go to the Arab countries, they
pork is America. America is the only real country that is beef heavy. Most of the rest of the world, pork is king.
Well, South America, it's really it's the Americans that are really into it. I mean, Brazil, all these are really heavy for beef. And some of it was fairly easy to raise a cow and butcher it, and that was good for a year. It wasn't until recently that chicken, like my mother remembers her family in Maine. So I had two groups, one that went up to Maine and for the Greeks, one went up to Maine and one went to Mobile. But in Maine, she would go up there and her step-grandmother, that woman would not give them lobster for anything. She says, that's poor people's food because that's what they survived.
Oh my God. Yeah. There was a law.
Because they survived on that during the Depression, and chicken was for people that had money. And now it's all the opposite.
When slavery was a thing here in the States, especially the northern states, there was a law on the books saying how much lobster you could feed your slaves because they thought it was trash food and it wasn't ... Now I was thinking about making lobster, a surf and turf for my daughter for Christmas, and it's like $30 a pound. And I pour food in my ass.
Well, so it depends if you're getting the Maine lobsters, which are really expensive with the claws and everything.
Yeah, but the meat's sweeter.
It is, but sometimes, and this was fun because when we're overseas for Iraq and Afghanistan, they have surf and turf day, and if you get in the dining facility, everything is completely overcooked. So your steak is gray, and so I said, look, I can take overcooked lobster better than I can take overcooked steak. So I would eat the lobster and things like that just because No, I agree with you. Now, there was a guy outside who was grilling steaks. And he says, well, how many do you want? And he'd only give you one at a time. I think when I left Erbil, I ate 3 of these big honking steaks, like New York strip. I was like, oh, this is so good because I had been starving. But yeah, the lobster, I don't know. I would rather have blue crab any day of the week.
Oh, yeah. Blue crab, soft shell crab. I mean, my brother, God, I love my brother, Chris. We would go to restaurant buffets, and the only thing he would eat was dungeon crab, the crab legs. Okay. And I'm thinking, there's a huge menu of all this other great food, but all you want to eat is dungeon crab. And later on, when I was like pricing down dungeon crab for my own interest, I'm like, he got my money's worth, he got mom's money's worth, he got his money's worth, and everybody else's money's worth out of damn eating just crab legs. My mom or my aunt would always go hit a salad bar. She's like, well, go have a salad before. I'm like, no, you go after the crab legs if you want your money's worth.
I would rather have, which of course you're talking about, for cooking, and I do the Cajun style for my stuff. Is I love having a great etouffee or the other one which is a Cajun Alfredo sauce that I put with the with crawfish.
Right.
Oh man, now to be fair, I don't follow traditional. I throw in tons of Parmesan cheese, but I also throw in the sour cream because I like that tanginess that comes from Philadelphia cream cheese. I like throwing.
Oh yeah. That's It's expensive, but it is. It's
cream cheese isn't that expensive, not compared to Parmesan. Geez.
Yeah, that's fair.
I bought some because I enjoy making it. To be fair, I make the sauce and then I put the. It's great seasoning, but again, if you can't take the heat, it's this stuff.
Oh yeah, I know that stuff.
Yeah, the Creole seasoning, that's great stuff. Then I'll add some more paprika to it and make it, and I just love that. And when I used to eat noodles, which I just realized are empty calories, so I stopped eating them. But man, that is so good. That is so good. And if you're trying to do keto, Alfredo sauce is fantastic.
My grandpa, whenever he would burn something, this is on my mom's side. Anytime my grandpa made hot dogs, hamburgers, or whatever, and he burned somebody, he would jokingly say, "Okay, who wants their burger Cajun?"
Oh, okay. Oh, the blackened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like a lot of and to be fair, like I said, family from Mobile, we grew up with a lot of that stuff. The other one I liked, which they don't do it like they used to, is I love chicken tenders, but everyone wants to use batter rather than breaded. And breaded to me tastes so much better.
I get that too. I don't know, just really.
I like seasoned, I don't mind seasoned flour. You put the seasoned flour over it, and then you put dip in the egg, and then you put the breadcrumbs on top of it, and then I go back over and I do it all over again, so they get the double layer.
Oh yeah, nice thickness.
Yeah. Oh yeah, then I don't have to worry about. Man, that is so good. As much as I say, I try to avoid carbohydrates. Look, I try to, but I just eat less than the average person. That's what it really comes down to.
I came across, there's this anime cartoon that's been on forever, and they came out with a cookbook for it here recently called the Naruto Ramen something cookbook, and it's at work. It was a gag gift for my birthday, and I'm like, whatever. And I love ramen. Don't get me wrong. I like traditional ramen, and I started, I got maybe an hour and a half before I got to get something else going. And everything is doing what it needs to. So I grabbed the book. I'm thinking this is going to be one of those bullshit cookbooks.
Yeah.
And it isn't. It's legit cookbook. It's like the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook that came out earlier last year. Everybody was bitching about it. But it's a legit cookbook. I have the Hannibal Lecter from the TV series cookbook. I have the Walking Dead cookbook. I have a bunch of, just because they have different recipes or different ideas of recipes that you're not going to get from the joy of cooking or whatever. I got the Game of Thrones cookbook, which is absolutely gorgeous. I have the Harry Potter. It came a side joke back about 10 years ago, and it's just kept on. The Fallout, Skyrim, But no, so I'm crack open this the Naruto one. I need pork. And I'm sitting there looking at the recipe. I'm like, hell, I think I have half this shit, except for the the Mir sauce, the soy. I have soy sauce, Mir sauce. There's a few things I don't have. I'm like, that's nothing more than a quick grocery, run. I'm like, fuck, it looks like I'm making ramen later on this week.
Well, the problem that you guys have in Illinois is you don't have a really great supermarket, period. I mean, when I was in Chicago, I had to go to like 2 or 3 to get all the things I wanted.
Let's see.
I went to Costco, Jewel, and what's the other one? Whole Foods to get all the stuff I wanted during my shopping runs.
Okay. Schnucks for produce, Pottstown for meat, Costco for
bulk. Yeah.
Bulk. We have an Asian market that's pretty good. We have a Middle Eastern market that's pretty good. But yeah, there's not one stop. I have to basically make a pentagram in I'm joking. Kind of, but not really. I have to, track, 5 different freaking directions to get everything I need. And going back to that fresh market, walking out of a fresh market, grocery store with a bag, it's a symbol. It's like having a fucking Tesla. No, I mean, granted, I wouldn't mind having one. I think the owner's a shitbag, but that's just my opinion. He doesn't own YouTube, so I'm okay still, as of yet.
Hey, you got to give him credit for outing all of the government spies within the social media.
He is pissed off so many people that I don't know if it's true or not, and I hope it isn't, that there is a lawyer going over his visa.
Well,
to make sure he filled it out correctly, because if he didn't, he can be deported. But
what gets me about it is they're mad because he's outing people for telling the truth. And I said, you don't have to like Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk in many ways is more. I think he is a brilliant man, but I also think Elon Musk is how do I want to put this? It's pretty much a charlatan in certain aspects.
He's the Steve Jobs of Tesla. Mm-hmm. He has it. Every company that he's had fun. It was never his idea. He just knew how to fucking market it. PayPal was somebody's idea, his buddies, and he knew how to market it. Tesla was somebody else's company, and he bought it. He knows how to run the game, and I will give him props for that. But he's not this genius that everybody says he is. He knows what companies to buy in and when.
Well, I've heard a couple of things. One is he relies a lot on government funding, but the other one is I do believe he is an actual genius when you look at sometimes the way he goes. I mean, and what I mean by genius is like 145, 150 IQ. That's by my understanding for it. But that said is, there's plenty of people that don't work hard. There's other people, but yeah, he's just pissing off all the right people, in my opinion. And I said, now, do I trust him? No. Do I trust Jeff Bezos? No. Do I trust Gates? Hell no. Don't, by God, do not read The Real Dr. Fauci. Holy crap. There's a book that if you really want to get afraid, there's where you go.
Somebody when the Fauci shots came out, by the way, I'll be the first one to admit I got 1, I got 2, and I got 3. Mm-hmm. It wasn't so much for me. It was for my daughter more than it was for anybody else. So I'm not gonna. I got it. Whatever. But anyways, mm-hmm. And so when somebody's like, "I can't believe you got this," aren't you worried that they're going to put a chip in you? They could track you, and that's when I just grab my phone. I'm like, they already can. And if even half of the military stories are true that I've heard, we don't even know where not 80%. We don't even know where like 20% of the troops are at any given time.
I can say this much, is that's probably true. I don't know about the percentages, but I have a friend of mine, her husband was Special Forces. And so we say hearing, there are no American troops in Ukraine. I'm like, yes, there are.
If we don't put tracking chips in their boots or in their ass when they get the every other shot, what makes you think they're going to do that when we voluntarily walk around with one of these in their pocket? I don't care if it's Apple, Galaxy, whatever. These are tracking devices. If you don't think they are, you're a damn fool.
Well, like I said, I knew a lot of this. Well, the problem that I have with a lot of it is, and again, I like listening to Robert Barnes is a great person to listen to. So that's why I said I don't try getting too political. but I just saw where they're allowing the Amish farmer to sell his food again. To me, we have a massive deficit. And yet we have a government that wants to spend more and more money trying to attract people instead of just saying, you know what, let's narrow on the things that we can do well and things that we aren't. But multi-gun man, I did a religious exemption, and if you got fired for that, guess what? They can get sued and have to repay people.
And I'm sorry. I mean, I don't
like people
honestly,
being forced to take something. That's my big issue.
Right.
And I also don't like people not getting all the information. But if you read The Real Dr. Fauci, which is from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., holy crap. I am so glad I did not take it.
Was he Mengele? I mean, how bad is the son of a bitch?
Yeah, it's Mengele level.
Jesus. I did it for my daughter's comfort. And I mean, as I've jokingly said before, I'm surprised I made it out of 20. So anymore, I just consider myself living on borrowed time.
Well, and my father had no reaction. My mother was sent to the hospital the day after she got the shot.
Oh, I got the shot. The first time I had a shot, my arm felt like it was caught on fire. Then it went numb. Then they're like, okay, so that was the first shot. So when I said the second shot, nothing. Third shot, nothing. The booster shots, nothing. It was just that first one. But I'm also the dumb son of a bitch who refuses to get the flu shot because I refuse to get the flu.
Well, I refuse to get the flu shot because, again, what I found out, and I'm not trying to knock the flu shot in this case, but if you're fighting off a disease and they give you the flu shot, your body stops fighting whatever disease it's dealing with and then start trying to fight the flu, which you don't have. And so then that's why a lot of people get sick the day after or whatever, because your body slowly stops fighting whatever it was fighting before. And I got so sick the day after I got the flu shot when I was in Iraq. I said, never again, never again. I don't get the flu for the most part. When I do, it's real minor and not knocking anything. And I don't care what it is. But, and this is why I get mad with the CDC. Guys, this is true of anything. Get in shape, lose weight, get vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B, and zinc. And that will help protect you against most of the diseases.
What got me with COVID is I can understand somebody in my body shape being sick and doing bad shit. I get that. Unhealthy body, disease, ... I had a buddy of mine from high school getting ready for an Ironman. He caught it, and he died like a week later.
Well,
perfectly healthy, and he got COVID, and he was just done.
Well, and, people forget about this, but what I wanted was people to have a risk profile, which is what they did not do. They treated everyone as the same risk. And I said, like you're saying, your buddy with this. Well, okay. But I don't want people to feel forced they have to take it. It should be optional for number one. And then number two is, like I had myself tested and I had the antibodies. Well, if I have the antibodies, that meant at some point I had COVID, but it was super mild for me. My friend's wife, who is huge, and her family's big, they all dealt with it just fine. And then yet we had a guy at work. His mother did fine, and she was older. But he was sent to the ICU because it got so bad. But really, my problem with all of it is the treatment aspect, which is, the doctors. It's not that if people want the shots, I think that they should get them, especially when you don't know what it is. But don't hide the data and don't force people, because there's nothing that gets people like myself after dealing with both my ankles and with this whole thing. I just don't trust the medical establishment. They're really good at giving out drugs. They're not really good at actually trying to prevent anything.
And I'm not going to disagree with any of that. Granted, I got family members that are doctors, so I tend to listen to them more than anybody else. But these family members are not the ones with a prescription pad with, here's 50. Take this prescription as I get $50, or whatever. Sell our drug. Because that's not their fields. So I tend to listen to them only because they have a piece of paper on the wall saying that they went through medical school and they are doctors. I'm some jackass with a mouth. So
Well, for me, as I talk, I have a friend that's a pathologist. So he does. So yeah, we were having discussions about it too, and he was talking about all of the negative effects he had with family members with the shot too. Again, it depends on what your risk profile is, and I really wish they had done that. High, medium, low.
You're right. But no insurance is going to cover you going into a hospital and getting yourself completely checked out, because I'm not saying all health insurances are crooks, but there's a few of them out there, and I'm not going to say who. I got cancer. That's not our problem.
Well, again, what I said is the risk. Well, you should know if you have clogged arteries, you're morbidly obese, high blood pressure, diabetic. I mean, when you start adding up all the comorbidities, compromised immune system, when you have this big list going down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is when you looked at the average death, it was 4 more comorbidities, and the average age was in the 80s. I said, well, okay, look, if you're elderly, like I said, my parents they're not quite there, but they're in that higher risk area. That's fine. But like for my son, there was no reason to give him the shot, and yet they were terrifying these people because of it. I said, the kids aren't the problem. Anyone under 30, but that's where the risk profile comes in. Where do you fit in the risk profile? And I don't care what drug it is. I wish they would do that for doctors, but doctors have this. This is my problem with it is, I would rather go to a veterinarian. I think they do a better job than the doctors around here. Well, everyone laughs at it, but
I'm laughing because it's true, not because it's just asinine. No, I mean I get it. I get it.
Well, I went out with the veterinarian a couple of times, and we were talking about it, but. I fell on the ice and hit the back of my head, and she looked over and tried to see if I had a concussion. It's not they don't have the skills. So I just wish what they would do, especially for rural areas, which do not have enough doctors. They have veterinarians, but they don't have enough doctors. I said, why can't you just give the veterinarians 1 extra year of schooling, and then they can treat both animals and people?
I mean, to tell you the truth, body mechanics wise, we're not so far different off from a pig. All our organs are in the same place. I mean, mechanically, I'm not saying we're the same species, but mechanically, you line up a pig's, lay down a pig and do autopsy and lay a human next to it. They're similar enough where, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Here's a dirty little secret they didn't talk about, when they're going into ivermectin and stuff. I knew people, we're talking early 2000s, every time they got sick and they were vet techs, they would go raid the veterinarian's stash for like ivermectin and a few and antibiotics and stuff. And I just have to laugh because it's the same drugs. It's the exact same drugs. Now, the experimental stuff, they put on the animals first to see how it reacts. Then they do human trials. That's the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But like aspirin and stuff. And then I don't know what it was. She was talking about, there were some massive wounds, especially in horses, where they're really big. And they would pack bags of sugar into the wound. And apparently that would help prevent it from being
heard. Yeah. An ex-girlfriend of mine was a real big horse person. And we'd watch something and she would talk about it. She wasn't a vet. But she wanted to work with a horse therapy or something like that. So, she knew her stuff. And I joked around with her. It's like, if I ever hit the lottery, big lottery, I'm going to buy not some first place winner, not some second place winner, but third place winner and just sell his shot until the day, and stud him the fuck out.
Well, I hate the registries, because they're breeding for purity, not for practicality. What I mean by that is, like thoroughbreds haven't really gotten that much faster over the years because they closed the registry. When the registry was open, they could bring in new fresh blood.
Yeah.
So it got faster and faster for thoroughbreds, but everything is, and the further away you are from it, it really doesn't matter. But as you get closer and closer to the middle, man, everyone wants to sell their horses for something. I would rather, you're better off just getting a well-trained horse and getting a super cheap one. And they are super cheap. You can get some almost for free, especially this day and age.
Well, with what I'm saying, with third place winner, is you're selling the name. You're not selling the horse. You're selling the name. And
Yeah, oh yeah, stud fees. Well, if you get a winner, those are huge stud fees. But I hate saying this. I understand some of it is, but it reminds me of these purebred dogs. I still like getting my dogs from the pound.
oh yeah,
Unless they're a working dog. I mean, I don't mind the mixes. They're good and they're friendly and they're not overbred. They don't have all the major problems that a lot of the other dogs do. And what am I trying to do? I'm not trying to show off for a dog. I just like the companionship. And I like big fluffy dogs, but I love the border collie. But I'll tell you this much: do not have a border collie unless you have a super active family and you have plenty of room to run and you want lots of stories about how they get into trouble.
yeah, I got a buddy of mine that has 2 full-blooded huskies, and I know they're loving the snow right now. I'm not faulting either one of him or his wife for having huskies. I'm of the opinion Illinois is just kind of borderly too warm to have huskies, especially during the summer. But I don't have one, therefore it's like, what room do I have to say anything? It's just my opinion. It's like voting. Once you have one, you can say something. I have kids. I have 3 kids. One of them's mine. The other 2 came from marriage, but they're my kids. So whenever someone brings up kids, I feel like I have a right to say something because I've helped raise 3. Anyways, I'm counting myself.
Some of it, I think, because if anyone knows Great Pyrenees, and we're looking in Texas, and they're pretty common around here for dogs. Look at the Great Pyrenees
for Texas.
Yes, exactly. and I mean, those poor dogs are still, but they're good dogs. I think they're great. And my son has, his mother, because he's 3 Great Pyrenees mixes. And they're just wonderful. They roll on their back. You come over, and the little dog that I don't like is about this big and he'll try getting up this. No, it's a mix of something, but it probably has some terrier in there, and he'll get over and he thinks he's a lot bigger than he is, and he barks at this 80-pound dog. I'm like, you're only about 12 pounds. And finally, sometimes she gets fed up with it, and she goes after him hard. I'm like, you didn't think that the first few times that maybe I would stop this? No, he thinks he's a lot bigger than he is until the dog comes at him. But yeah,
there's a dog. I want one basically because I think the breed is interesting, and one of my favorite literary people has one, and it's a Tibetan Mastiff.
Oh yeah.
But I'm of the strong belief dogs like that need to eat a better diet than I do. And I don't think I could afford that diet.
No. There's so many things in there, which to me, the dog is family. It is, but it's conditional family. If you have a vicious dog or something, you're going to put the dog down. You don't do that with your family. Well, there's a certain kind of family now if you're the mafia, that's different. But no, that's. But no, I mean, I enjoy the dogs, and if I was married or I had someone around, I would definitely have a dog. I love dogs. I do. I just I don't think it's fair.
I'm not allowed to. Where I'm currently living, I'm not allowed to have a dog, which I'm perfectly fine with. I don't have the time or the funds to actually be a good pet owner, and I know this.
Right, and that's my point. I don't have the time because, like now, this is no problem. Okay, this is fine. I'll go out for a walk. That's great. But there are times that I have to travel for a week on end. I don't want to have to find someone taking care of the dog. There's a lot of things like that. So I understand, but the only thing that really worries me is whenever I start seeing women put up, "I'm a dog mom." Like, no, you're not. You're a dog owner. Okay. No.
I know a few cats like that, so I'm gonna be nice. And enough chance they might watch this video.
Well, it's. I'm not trying to be mean about it, but at a certain point, if you really
No,
want to
it's not that I disagree with you. I know. I think people who own cats. There's nothing wrong with cats. Let's be honest. There is something wrong with people who own cats. Anyways, they seem to be a little bit more obsessive with their cats than dog people, I've noticed.
Here's the problem that I have with cat people. If your animal attacks me, I'm going to kill it. I've told people this before. I'm not even going to. We're not going to play games anymore. I've gotten too old at this point in my life. Like, well, you're afraid of a cat. I said, no, I'm not. I actually like cool cats that snuggle up to you and everything else. I'm like, fine. What I don't like is I'm sitting around ignoring the cat, and the cat comes over and claws and draws blood.
Yeah, I've always been a believer of the 10% rule, especially when it comes to pets. If your dog is a dick, it's your fault. If a dog bites me, 10-1, it's my fault unless the owner's a dick.
Now, if I warn you about something, that's one thing. You know, I had a border collie, and we used to tell all my friends that came over, don't look at her in the eyes. But she would try staring at you in the eyes the entire time. So you couldn't even glance at her, but you had to pet her. And so one time my father's, I think it was his boss, came in, and he was they were at the house, and the dog got up on his shoulders and put one here and one here, you know, for the paws, and laid her head right on his chest.
Aww.
And he was petting her, and he's like, oh, this is cool. As soon as she stopped, she'd go, and then he'd start petting and she'd stop. It's like, maybe this isn't the best, but but really it comes down to what I call irresponsible cat owners. It's my real problem with it.
Yeah.
You know, if your cat tends to attack people, guess what? You need to put away your cat, period. And this idea of, oh, well, no, your cat drew blood on me. This is not acceptable.
I got another buddy who just got as much as I'd like to say Chihuahuas are not dogs, they are. I question people who think Chihuahuas are good pets, but that's a whole different subject. Not really. But so this person's got a new dog, which new to them. She's already went through a chaotic home, and the dog does not seem to like guys for whatever reason. Sure. So when the wife's home, the dog is awesome. When the owner of the husband is home and petting the dog is all right. But his dad went over to let the other dog out. It's named after that asshole. Well, he's not named after the asshole, but he's Tucker. Yeah, that's his name. Sorry, yeah, the dog's name is Tucker. And Tucker's a good dog, but he doesn't like strange people in his house. Now, the Chihuahua is already went through one household with, I'm guessing, not great male figure in the house. So when the dad went over to let the dog out, and the Chihuahua came up and bit him, and he's like, that dog bit me, da, da, da. He gets back. I'm like, yeah, because you're stranger danger.
Well, you know, I understand that, but as an owner, put away your dog or something like that. And I'm also more familiar. The problem is people are not as familiar with dogs and how they react. Like my friend had a dog, which actually bit him like hard because the dog got really possessive. And now he lives with this dog, which I find funny. But I knew how the dog would react. I said, okay, no sudden movements. And so we go over, and then the dog was like my buddy, wanted to like hang out with me and stuff. I said, okay, but you still have to be careful on, you know. Yeah, it's like, all right. So I didn't have any real problems with that. Like once I understood how it works. And, you know, they do take time to go through there. But the problem that I have with cats is just, okay, I'm ignoring it. And then the cat will like stalk you and then attack. Whereas a dog will at least bark at you. You know, okay, facing you. I said, no, I'm just not putting up with it anymore. I'm too old for this. Yeah. I'm just too old now. You know, look, either play with your cat more, do something. You know, it's like, look, I understand why people, like in Germany, because you weren't allowed to have a gun, people got big dogs. uh, for home protection. So a lot of people get that, like, boy, you live in these small little areas. But okay, fine. I understand that. But, my ex, she had this pit bull, and it attacked her animals. I'm like, nowadays, as I get older, I just wouldn't put up with it. The dog would have gotten a bullet to the brain, and that would have been resolved.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if it's livestock. If that animal is messing with my child's food for the next year or next 6 months, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but you gotta go.
Well, they were pets. Let's see, the dog attacked her horse one time that was tied up. And of course, that the horse had to kick the dog off. There was she had this duck, which they were friends for a long time. The dog jumped in and then ripped the duck's throat out after like a year and a half. And the dog, it's a pit bull, and it switched. And I've seen the exact same thing when my grandfather had one. And no, I know that they're not the same dogs over, but it's a dog. I just don't, that breed, for whatever reason, when they snap like that. And they don't.
Yeah, I mean, I like pit bulls. To be honest, I've yet to have that problem. I've never owned one, but I've had a few buddies that have, and it kind of. And I could be wrong, but with me, it always goes back to what kind of owner the dog has.
Well, I know the owners that had them.
Right, and no offense to your friends, I normally, when dogs become an issue,
Well, here's the problem. The dog would flip.
Right.
And I would lay down on the dog and use it like a pillow and stuff. It was that way. But as soon as the dog got excited, like the bird was flying or something, it would go to attack mode. And same thing with livestock and stuff like that. It was.
Yeah, that's I get it. I mean,
No, multi-gun man, I hate saying this, is I don't mind them having guns. The problem is they're politicians. Well, the problem with our politicians too.
Did I tell you the joke about the farmer?
Go ahead.
So on a late evening, a bus full of politicians are driving down the road, and something ran in front of them, and the driver swerved off the road.
You told me this one.
All right.
Yeah, they always lie. They kept saying that they weren't dead.
So for the people in chat, I'll go ahead and finish it. So they swerved off the road, and they ran into the barn, and the farmer came out to see what happened, and he buried them. The next couple days later, sheriff shows up, asks him what happened. He says, "Well, a bus full of politicians ran into my barn, and there just weren't no survivors." He looks at him, he's like, "Yeah?" He's like, "Well, a few of them said they were okay, but you can't trust this politician."
Yeah.
That being said, I was really close in my earlier years to actually get into politics.
Here's the thing is, I think that it's important for people to be involved in local politics.
Right.
The problem that I have with it is, once you get above a certain percentage, one is you don't know your politician anymore. So that's a big problem. And then the other one is that, especially in this hyper partisan where people just look if there's an R or D at the back. And I've seen a huge number of politicians where they switch parties because they knew they couldn't get elected from one or the other. I said, it doesn't mean, what is the policy? What are the policies? And that's like I said, you don't have to like someone, but like I'll get slightly political. Well, like for Trump, I said, at the end of the day, the man did 4 peace treaties. How come we couldn't have the other presidents do any peace treaties for the last 40 years? And it took this neophyte to come in and break it and say, "Oh, well, you know what? I can get 4 peace treaties." That is ridiculous.
I thought Clinton did at least one.
No,
because the Middle Easterns really loved him.
They liked Trump too.
Yeah.
And so did the Chinese, and so did the Russians. You know why they liked Trump? It's because what he said is what he would tend to do. He didn't say one thing and do the exact opposite.
once again, I was kind of raised in an anti-Russian house on both sides because Cold War. Don't trust the Ruskies. And I'm not saying all Russians are bad. I will never say all Russians are bad. But if you, like myself, was raised in a Cold War, house, it's my grandpa. If either one of my grandpas were still around, the idea that we're trying to make any kind of deals with the Russian is one deal too many.
Well, see, I mean, I grew up with it too. I hate saying this is when I expect when I got out of high school, I was going to join the military and go fight the Russians. I mean, that was the Soviets, really. The Warsaw Pact is a better phrase. And then the wall fell when I was in boot camp. Like, what? And well, not the wall fell. The Soviet Union disintegrated. I said, oh, okay. But the problem that I have was, and I didn't believe my African friends for the longest time. I thought we were trying to do good. And really, I just feel that do I trust the Russians? No, I honestly, anyone that thinks that Putin, I think that Putin blew up and did some false flags of some apartment complexes if you really want to go look at stuff. That said I think that he looks at it and he's trying to do what's right for Russia. I think the problem with our politicians is they're trying to do what's right for themselves and not for the country, which are two very different things. But
this is where I'm going to get off the bridge. Well, I'm not going to jump like Dan, but this is where I get. I mean, I somewhat understand Russian politics. Well, I should say this: I don't quite understand Russian politics, other than the fact is what's good for the mob is good for the country. Is the one term I've heard multiple times in my life. Then the few Russian cats I've met over the years, it was very much still that, you either not exactly get mobbed up, but you don't do anything to piss off the mob. And who's that comedian, Brett, whatever, I Am the Machine?
Yeah. I know who you're referring to.
He has a whole skit about dealing, and this was the late early 90s.
Well, see, I went over there in the early 90s as well. And so they said, we used to worry about the, I guess with the NKVD, whatever, because they're different ages. Everyone just lumps them in a KGB. But, yeah. But they had their secret police, and they said we used to worry about that when we were, when the Soviets were around, and now that the Soviets are gone, now we worry about the mob during that. Oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, the 90s were a really bad time. But I was looking at the statistics since Putin's gotten into power. The inflation rate has dropped, because I remember being there. It was 1,000 rubles to the dollar, and there was a lot of things going really bad. But they were showing the suicide rates, they were showing the rates of alcoholism, unemployment. Yeah, exactly. It's and that's the way that I feel about that too. And really, I'm like, well, what we should be doing is what we did in the 90s. Oh yeah, there's. I don't think it's a tinfoil hat rant at this point. Don't read the Real Dr. Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy. Just trust me. You don't want to see what Gates is involved in. Oh yeah.
There was a quote from Lincoln. Was the general public did not need to know everything that happens in government because they would not understand. To a certain degree, I agree with that. I don't want the White House to be a glass house.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah. Well, this is what I get is I want the government to be transparent for the things that it's doing. And then I want an honest and robust debate about it. But you don't need to know, like, we're all over, like, how do I want to put this? Because we all get kind of, if anyone wants to listen to Defense Politics Asia, where you sit down and you just listen to everything going on. But, I'm sorry, the FDA, the USDA, a lot of this other stuff where we're not talking about national security as much, that should be open and transparent. What government starts talking to with other corporations to censor people, the fact that the Elon Musk was bringing out, that should have been front and center, because secrecy breeds corruption. And that's the problem that I have with certain things. But
power. Anytime you give power to any schmuck that doesn't really need it or deserve it, it creates creates it. You know,
Well,
what
have
was
you-
it saying? Absolute power corrupts all. I can't remember off the top of my head. Brain shutting down. But yeah, I mean, being a politician was never supposed to be a lifetime job. You're
Well-
supposed to go in, do your job, then go plow a field. Quite literally, that's what the founding fathers was thinking.
Well, the expectation was you were going to do something with your life and not stay in politics for your entire career. That's what gets me is the people making decisions it doesn't impact them at all. And you have to remember, the Constitution says that Congress will meet once a year, but we have Congress that's meeting year round. If Congress only had to meet 90 days a year, 120 days a year, which is what they used to do, we would watch a lot of it. But regulatory capture. The problem again is if you ever notice politicians, as soon as all this stuff comes out about what's in a bill and things, they all start backtracking.
Oh
And,
God.
Yeah,
Was a bill just passed
the omnibus.
the omnibus, and there was a few Republicans saying dot 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 dot, and there was a Democrat like, wasn't your bill part of that bill that just passed? And the other guy just kind of inflated. I want these bills. To my opinion, these bills should be on some web page where the general public could scroll down and read. Some of them do actually. I think they do actually. Now that I think about it, I think there's a website.
Here's the problem: you don't see them until after they've passed. Like there was one that was coming out. They voted on it. I couldn't get a physical copy until it had already gone through the Senate and the House. And I went,
right.
Hold on here. How am I? That's the problem that I have. It's not that I don't mind representative government. I think it's good, but you have to represent the people. And if you're hiding things, I think, and I don't know. I haven't really looked into this. This is what I've heard. I can't remember if it was Jefferson and was it Monroe or one of them. Anyway, one of the founding fathers. They were talking about. I said, well, you know what they should do is they have to put the bill out there unchanged for 6 months. And only after 6 months can they vote on it.
Nothing would be done. Not with the climate of our world right now. Nothing would be done.
Well, here's the thing: yes, it would. If you notice, here's the thing: is you don't get these 1,700-page bills. You pass a lot of smaller bills, and then that would go through. Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's what I'm referring. And see, that would cut a lot of waste. Well, the other problem that we're getting into. This is why. I think that our government, when whether we got involved in Syria or we got involved in Libya, and I'm going is because they were trying to switch over to they were trying to get rid of the dollar as a reserve currency, and if the dollar is no longer a reserve currency, our funding for debts and everything goes away, and so all of a sudden now they have to cut back on what they can spend, and that may be good for us. The whole thing with Russia and everything, Ukraine is Russia's territory. Mexico and Canada are our territory, the old Monroe Doctrine. You stay out of the Western Hemisphere, we stay out of the rest of the world. That's what I like. But this whole idea where we go over to all these other countries, leave us, let's get out of there. We're wasting way too much money. We're spending there's a great book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And I saw that firsthand when I was in Iraq. I said, "Oh my God, this explains everything I was seeing in Iraq." and rather than treating people as despite what everyone talks about with capitalism, what we have is crony capitalism and almost a mercantilism, rather than what I want to see, which is hey, you have something I want, I have something you want, we'll freely trade. But it comes really down to exploitation for a lot of this, and that's why I said my friends in Africa just kind of looked at me like, sure, whatever happened to Bono? Do you remember Bono was like trying to help out Africa and everything? What the hell happened to that guy?
I haven't heard anything from him. Well, it's not like we were pen pals, but I haven't heard anything about him in a while.
Oh, I was looking at the stuff where he was talking about. Well, it's the same reason that everyone hated Brexit. Well, what's wrong with countries taking back their own sovereignty and acting in the interest of their citizens? I don't know why that is so hard, but these people who want to control everything, whether it's language or everything else, why? you know what? Your life's a lot less stressful if you don't try controlling everything. And the less you can control, the less you try controlling, the more control you have over the things you can control.
Right. Oh, I keep getting arguments with my neighbors. There's a Puerto Rican. There's a Puerto Rican old woman that lives close to me, and her mailbox is close to my house. And the people across the street are freaking yelling, "Go back! We don't want you here. Why doesn't she speak English?" I'm like, first of all, she's Puerto Rican. It is a territory of America. She is a citizen in every right except for one. I think the one is she can't vote, but that's less of a headache for her, because voting is a headache.
It's not because she's Puerto Rican; it's because she's in a territory, and
yeah.
Because the part of the reason is that if you live in a state, but they also don't pay Social Security. But for me, for all those things, I don't
for not speaking English. And my point where English is the only language in America, the only language that could be spoken in America. I mean, it's the most common language here in America. I'm not going to say it isn't. Like Christianity is the most common religion in America, but American is neither a Christian country, continent, or as an English-speaking continent by law. It is just what majority of the people speak and believe in.
Well, it is a Christian country when you start looking back at a lot of the stuff, but people forget religion referred to the fact that it was not Catholic or anything else. It doesn't have a religious aspect leader, which is what no problem. That's the thing. But people are also forgetting, the important aspects. I've noticed that the further that we drift away from any religion, the more unethical government becomes. That's what gets me bad, and that includes science. Is whether you believe in God or not, when you believe that you were studying science to understand God, to misrepresent science was a sin against God. And nowadays, that's the problem that I have with it is they all want to talk about this, there's this integrity. If there was real integrity, they wouldn't try destroying someone that disagrees with them. They would argue the topic, not the person. And that's what really amazes me is whenever someone starts arguing about the person, then that they run out of actual, they don't have a good argument.
It's easy to cut somebody down. It's not so much easy to cut down their idealism. That's why, the whole, I don't remember where I heard this. I know Batman does a variation of it. Is you can kill a man, but you can't kill the idea.
Right. And that's what, just like all these people argue about flat Earth. And everyone's like, they're stupid. I say, okay, have you done the math? And the answer is no. So no offense. If you haven't done the math, you're taking as much that the Earth is round on faith as the person that is flat Earth. I said, now, for myself, I know that I've done plenty of surveying. I've been around the world. Yeah. Okay. Look, you can even see the shadow of the Earth on the moon. It's not flat. Okay. it's a geoid.
Pictures looks pretty round to me. I mean, it could be a quarter as far as I know, but from pictures I've seen.
And that's my point. It's these, but see, we're talking about this, but you don't attack someone. What you do is you attack the idea and say, okay, well, can you explain this and this and this? And I think that there's a philosophical value sometimes in exercising your brain to hear both sides of the argument. That's the problem that I hate with politics. If you notice, it's personal attacks, but what's really in the bill? What's your policy? If you really want to know what government is doing in the United States, go to the Federal Register. Go look at the CFRs. The problem is the CFRs are like, how many thousands of pages? How many pages are in the IRS?
You have to do the homework. I mean, I was talking to a lady I know that is a tax accountant. She helps write tax
code. Yeah.
Code that is that they teach in colleges. I'm not talking about your community college. I'm talking about your universities. She knows she is brilliant in her field. And we were talking about how the government has hired X amount of new agents for the IRS. And she's absolutely thrilled. She's like, you got to understand, a large percent of those people that are hired are replacing people that are about ready to retire. And the IRS needs more people because she doesn't want to be on the phone for like a day and a half, without being able to talk to somebody. Well, and usually not knowing anything else but what she's saying makes sense.
Well, here's the problem that I have with it is, and this is by my understanding, the IRS doesn't try auditing rich people because they have plenty of lawyers and tax accountants to fight with them. They try auditing you and I, and they're going to audit us for anything over $600 over a year.
You can't make a stone bleed. I'm sorry. I filed taxes for the first time as a private business owner. I didn't even think it was a business until it was pointed out to me that, dude, you make money. I'm like, oh, I guess this is a business. Yeah. Shit. And I was keeping my receipts and everything just because I was keeping my receipts. And I had to file taxes as a business owner this year. Holy fuck. I want to retire. I don't want to do that again. That sucks.
And see, that's what really bothers me is tax professionals want a complicated tax system.
Yeah.
Because and that's what I get so mad about is, well, all these people talk about it is, like Warren Buffett. Oh, well, we're going to do this. Well, why don't we make capital gains the same rate as income tax, Warren? I don't want to do. Yeah, okay. You're not this friendly old man that you pretend to be. You're just as cutthroat and as devious as all the others. So when you talk about Elon Musk, the reality of it is you learn who to hate because they're big public profiles. But go look at most of these people. Listen, as long as the billionaires are fighting, I'm okay. What worries me is when I start getting Gates and Soros together and some of these others, and they start controlling certain groups and Bezos. I said, no. You stay over there. If you guys are fighting, okay, that's fine. Now you're not controlling everything.
But historically, especially world history, I'm not even going to go in American history because it's a global thing. That's always kind of been the nature of our of human history. A group of people go and make decisions for everybody else. You saw it back in the politics in the 18th century where a group of old men said, I think he'd be a really good president. Then next thing you know, that fucker was the president. It wasn't the mass election scenario that we have now. It was 10, 15 old guys in a dark room smoking cigars and drinking brandy. Boy, do I wish I was there, because I bet you that brandy and those cigars were nice. We're making decisions how the country should be ran. I'm not saying that's the right way to handle it. I'm not saying it's a wrong way to handle it, but it's always been a thing. There's always been a group of people.
Well, here's the problem is the ability to control was much less then. That's the big thing is if you look as they were limited by a budget, they had to keep a balanced budget.
Right.
That was one. The other one is they didn't have all the other control. So really, I didn't care what was going on at the federal level because it didn't affect me at a personal level. Now you're determining on how much my shower can produce, my light bulbs. I'm like, you know what? This tells me you don't have anything really serious to do. It's because you're regulating these little tiny things that I can make my own choice. Now, like over here. Okay. I'm not saying everyone should buy light bulbs. These light bulbs were expensive because I can turn it to different colors. I can do things like, hey, Siri, turn living room lights to blue.
I believe you that it's blue.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Siri, turn off living room lights. Okay, fine. You just saw what it was. I said, okay.
Yeah, that's cool, and I get what you're saying.
But I don't want really government mandating that everyone has to buy these bulbs. This is a choice I make, and that's what I'm saying. That's the problem I have with it is they want to mandate and control your daily part of your life. Just get the hell out of here. You have better things to worry about. Why don't you worry about stuff at the international level or the interstate level? Stop worrying about what people do in their homes. Stop worrying about stupid pronouns. You're worried about pronouns, and yet the real problem is inflation. How about stop spending so much money? That's what really gets me about it.
I cannot disagree with that at all. I think a lot of the stuff, there are some things I wish, and maybe it's because I have a daughter. It very well could be because I have a daughter. I'm looking at this from a different angle.
Yeah.
But I wish a lot of things was just ran by it was a state's decision. If the state shits the bed, the state shits the bed. And I feel sorry for the people that live in said bed, but it should be a state's decision on how certain things are handled. There's other topics. I think it should be an outright law saying the autonomy of a human's body is upon that person's autonomy to make decisions upon themselves. Well, that's not exactly the right wordage, but you get where I'm going.
I know where you're going, but then the real question starts coming down to, okay, now you have two human bodies. Now what?
After X amount of time, after the first half.
Well, and this is where I got with my friend, and I know we went into it because I can tell where he fell on it, but he had a premature daughter. I said, all right. And if you look at California and New York and several other areas, it's up until birth, and in fact, they were trying to do it up to a week after birth.
I mean, there's a comedian I like, Christopher Titus, who made a joke that up until 18 years old, the parents have the right to abort. So if they think that their 18-year-old child is just going to be a waste on society, they had an option with the stick of vacuum to the back of his head and all that. I mean, that's not exactly how the joke goes, but it's.
I know what you're saying, and I've joked about that too to my son. I've joked about that too. I've joked about cooking my dog too. But it's Hygogi. You want some Hygogi? You just keep on misbehaving, and we'll
right. Last night I saw my daughter, and my daughter is 13 years old. So she is facing.
Okay, I thought she was younger than that. Okay,
no, she's 12. I'm sorry, she's 12, turning 13. She reminded me last night that she's turning 13 this coming year. I'm like, fuck. Anyways, I'm not ready to have a teenager. I think she's an absolutely brilliant child. I think she has a really good head on her shoulders. At this junction in life, she prefers women over boys, which that means no, teen pregnancy for me. I'm happy with this. If she changes her mind later on, so whatever. She has to live her life.
And my son likes, because his, my ex and him, and so he'll ask me questions. I said, look, I just don't believe in killing another human being. Okay, there are times it's necessary. I'm not saying it isn't.
Oh, well, right. There is.
There's moral. Yeah.
What's the word? Pro situation.
Well, and then I said there are times it may be necessary, but I said if you really look at it, I said okay, rape, incest, life of the mother, and severe physical and mental deformity. I said okay, I'm willing to accept those.
Those are my lines. That right there. That's my list.
And so I said okay, that's my aspect for it, and then when you get rid of all of those, what you start finding out, and this is what I found really disgusting, is the Philadelphia stuff. If you look at human embryonic kidney cells, they were looking for aborted fetuses up to 42 weeks, and 50% minority, and that's what they were using for the COVID shots. That's what was done with that. And I said, just from a moral standpoint, I said, my friend and I were talking about, I said, okay, we can talk about, what about a heartbeat? What about this? I said, okay, we can talk about developmental stages. And I said, that's really where the discussion should be. But the problem is that people have got all or nothing. And I said, look, I can talk about one way or another, but, this all or nothing, you listen to people. I said, women are not whole, and like I said, my friend who had his preemie was 28 weeks. When I told him 42 weeks, he was completely flabbergasted. I said, yeah, but really the problem that I had with the abortion argument was that they were using it under the 14th Amendment rather than 9th or 10th.
Which even Ruth, Supreme Judge Ruth, I can't think of her last name.
Ginsburg?
Disagreed with that being attached to that amendment. She thought it deserved its own amendment, I agree to. Something of that much importance, human autonomy, just human autonomy by itself. I'm not talking about a female's right to this or a guy's right. I mean, a human's autonomy should be a God-given right. At the end of the day, I should be able to say, okay, I've had enough.
And the problem that I have with a lot of this is, if you're going to go argue right of privacy, then I said, okay, that should fall under the, is it the Fifth Amendment? I'd have to pull it out to remember exactly, but basically no illegal search and seizure. And, that to me should be part of it, which is you get a warrant before you look at this. Don't just go out there, which is that's not what the government should be doing, is trying to mandate what you think. In fact, the opposite should be happening in education, which is why I'm glad that my son is homeschooled, because I want him to ask questions.
I mean, to be fair, with Texas's track record, I wouldn't be putting my kid in school.
I wouldn't put my kid in school in Illinois. I mean, that's yeah. See, that's
well, private school and what's the other school?
Charter.
Oh, no, I would deal with
magnet schools. So I think what we're
those. If I could pull it off, I would. Public schools.
Well, see, that's true of just about everywhere. And it depends on where you go. It really does. Everyone says, "Oh, look at Texas." I'm like, "Well, go look at this one. Go look at that one. Go look at Baltimore, where minority kids can't. None of them were passing reading and writing and math." I said, ignoring everything else. This is the problem that I have with any of it is, okay, we can argue about what's being taught, but you should be teaching kids how to use proper English, and you should be teaching them how to do math. And then the other part is, whenever I hear the word science, trust the science. If you trust the science, you don't understand what science is. Science is about questioning and then repeatability. That's why I get into these things.
When I was in high school, sex ed was a class on how to scare the shit out of young boys and girls. It wasn't how to be responsible. It wasn't about how to be safe. It was, if you have sex before marriage, magically your penis will fall off.
Okay, so I've been to Kentucky and I've been to Florida, to Texas, all right? So we can talk about this. We had health class, and they were explaining on how things work. And here's the sad thing. They used to not have to do it because guess what? Little boys and little girls knew where babies came from because they were breeding the animals, and you kind of knew what the animals were doing. It's not, well, if the rooster's breeding the hens, we get eggs, and then the eggs hatch into this. If the stallion melts,
it's kind of common sense once you get to a certain age.
Mm-hmm. Oh, alternative schooling? Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you go to an alternative school, that's a special type.
Don't you have to be I went from private school to I was the darkest kid to school to I was the whitest of the dark kids that go to school. It was and I'm still having issues here in the Democrat state of Illinois.
So I'm going to laugh at this. It's you want to talk about? So my father went to private high school. It was a Catholic high school, and it was run by a bunch of brothers. And one of the kids got out of line, and one of the brothers held him out of his second-story window and decided to lecture him while I was holding him outside the window.
I jokingly say I'm okay with this, but that's horrifying.
You know what? A lot of it, they did that. And then the other one was, and I met the coach. And what amazes me is in how strong some of these people are that everyone talks about strength. The kid was talking, blah, 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 blah. And the desk that we were in school where they have the front, and you're kind of in the seat. The coach,
and it just like slides over. Yeah.
No, it doesn't slide over. It's already there. It's fixed.
and you flip up the lid and it's a metal shell. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Some of those. Anyway, this kid was bad mouthing, and this is my father's track coach. The track coach picked the kid up and physically threw him with the desk through the doorway. Now, if you ever tried to break, my father said, but the most amazing part, he said, I couldn't get it through the doorway without hitting the door frame whenever I was trying to do it just normally. He said this coach threw it, and it missed by both sides of this. And he said the kid was sprawled out in the hallway. I said, oh yeah. I said, those were special cases.
I don't remember exactly what was wrong with them. When I went to East Peoria, I was put in special ed because of my I have translexia, dyslexia, ADD. So reading, math, and sitting still was never going to happen for me.
Sure.
And so their answer was, we're going to put you with the rest of these special need kids, not thinking that, this might be a bad idea. And this huge kid who had some kind of autism, but he was like ready to go play football. I mean, just huge. And teacher's like, have a seat. I took a seat. He comes up to me and does the whole Sheldon, that's my spot. And I'm a teenager, therefore I'm dumb. Yeah. Not much has changed, but, I was a teenager at that juncture. And I'm like, screw you, hippie. Go get your own seat. Next thing I know, him and his ham hocks. I mean, I've said this about myself, and I still don't get it, but this guy had. He could palm a football. I mean, a palm of football. He could palm a basketball. I'm pretty sure he could palm 2 basketballs. I mean, the guy was just huge. I heard had to be some kind of giantism in that family. Huge. I'm not joking. This guy was.
No. I mean, it's probably good Viking blood and everything else.
Right. I mean, I've heard stories about him later on that he was like 6 foot in the beginning of junior high, which was like 6th grade. So I'm like, 6 foot at 6th grade. What the hell were they feeding this kid? Anyways, he picks me up the chair, one hand, picks me up and says, my seat, and just throws me. I'm 145 pounds. I'm boxing shape. I'm Mr. Rugby Badass. And this kid who is like cries if somebody steps on a flower, throws me not across the room, but throws me like I'm a bag of freaking beans.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can have whatever seat you want there, big boy. I will stand in the corner. I am good.
He asked you. He told you, that.
Didn't think anything about it.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, those are, but some of these things that come out, and there's a lot of things that, were foreign, but I remember also being in Kentucky, and I had a couple of friends that got paddled, and
I got paddled a few times, but it was also across the pond.
But
different.
I mean, they came back like, I'm big, bad, and tough, and they come back, and there are, tears rolling down their eyes. I'm like, ooh, it may. Everyone's going, well, it didn't affect that kid as well. The kids turned out okay, but I one of my sort of coworkers, the guy that's part of my agency, he was talking about they came in, they were complaining about his son because he would get up and like if they saw a grasshopper, he'd get up and grab the grasshopper and like throw it outside or something in the middle of the class, and the teachers were
disrupting the class. ... Yeah.
Well, and it was disruption, but it was good-natured disruption. It wasn't that he was just disrupting to disrupt. It was just
right.
It just didn't click with him anyway. They're like, you have to stop him doing this. So he said, fine. So he went over and said, hey, son, you have to do this. And then he said, and he did it again. He's like, all right. And they called him over, and this teacher's going over there. And so he spanked his son. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm sure he spanked his son like I do with mine, where he's like, oh, okay, that hurts. That stings. All right, I won't do that again. He comes out of the room where he spanked him, and all the teachers are crying. Oh, my God, he hit him. I'm going, you know what? This is
your guys' fault.
Well, that was kind of what he did. He said, you want me to handle it, and then you don't like it whenever it gets handled. I said, just like with my son, and when everyone talks about, oh, spanking's so bad, I spanked him, but you know what? He knew what he did.
Spanking is not beating, and anybody who thinks of the same thing needs to get their head out of their ass.
To me, it's a reinforcement of rules that we've already discussed and talked about. I don't spank. I mean, it's just
it's kind of. Some kids are light bulb kids. You know what I mean by light bulb kids or light socket kids? They need the physical reminder not to do that. And a swat on the ass, 2 swats on the ass will remind them. I'm not saying taking the kid out back, taking off your belt and beating them like the good old days. Or, what was it? Jeff Ingalls said, having to go cut my own switch is a mind game. I pick this one, it's too small. They're going to send me back out. That one's going to break my spine. ...
Yeah.
But no,
well,
I'm also of the opinion no one's going to spank my kid but me.
Well, part of it just comes down to, if I know you, I might give you permission, but you notify me too. Like I listened to one guy. He said he badmouthed his grandmother.
Oh,
He said I got beat 6 times. He said my grandma beat me, my grandpa beat me. When I came home, then they told my parents. Then his mother beat him. Then his father beat him, and then his uncle. And he said I never mouthed off to her again. That was one. But some of them were just tougher. Like, for me, it was always a reinforcement. Like for my son, when he was misbehaving, I'd say, all right. I said, okay, you keep this up, you can get a spanking. And he went, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, you're up to 1. Do you want 2? Blah, 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 blah. And he just kept going and going.
Agreement about, I am 100% agreement.
Well, here's what gets me. Everyone that says that it doesn't work is, I want you to do this. I want you to start up a really hot pot, and you tell me if it's a kid. When you touched it, if you learned something or not. I
always wonder when I make statements like that. I'm like, how many people am I going to piss off tonight?
Well, I think the problem is that some people remember them actually being beaten, and I think girls are different than boys.
I came from remember Breakfast Club?
I've heard about it. Yeah.
I relate to one of those characters, and it wasn't the jock or the nerd, and there was only 3 guys in the show. If you know who I'm talking about, and you've gone through that too, I am incredibly sorry. But no, Hard Knocks, Jesus, man, my friend Finn calls me a geriatric millennial. I'm 39 years old. Raised by people that raised my mom, not mom, but my dad. So yeah. I'm more of a Gen Xer than I will ever be a millennial. But if you look at the date I was born, I'm a millennial. But
they used to call those Gen Y. What gets me is it's like I was a Gen X, and then like my friends about your age were Gen Y. But the millennials are the ones that really, it depended on what that cutoff was, which is they make it too big. It's like, look. Every generation is anywhere from 20 to 15 years. I mean, that's generally what you're looking at. But I agree with you. But I looked at it like with my son, and his mother was like, "Oh, should I spank her? Not, what is he doing?" But my son put in a knife into an electrical socket.
Didn't do that again.
No, he did it the second time. That's when I found out about it.
Well, some children takes twice.
Well, you know what? The first time could just be a fluke. You have to repeat it twice to actually get scientific evidence. It
was a science project that no one understood but him.
Well, he was 3 years old, and I just remember his mom yelling at him, "Stop putting the knife in there. Do you want your fingers to turn black again?"
Again.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like, and all I could think was, you did learn the first time. Anyway, and sometimes.
I don't know about you, but I know I was a handful. I
was a good kid. I mean, that's what was funny.
I was really 101 spankings I got, I probably deserved at least 20 of them, at least by my stepdad. And when it came to my grandparents, my grandma just had a way to put the fear of God in you, and all it took. I mean, she gives me that disapproval look, and I was all tears. I mean, big bad Connell, I'll take anybody on. Grandma gave me that look, tears and the whole.
Oh, it was the disappointment. It was the 3-hour lecture. So I'm like, could you just hit me? Let's get this over with. And that's really what I try doing with my son. Is
you have a choice: either bitch at me or spank me.
Oh,
if you spank me, that's what gonna be 3-4 hits, and you're gonna be done. I'm gonna have a sore ass for a few minutes, and I can move on with my day. Or I have to sit here for an hour and a half listening to you. I take the spanking.
It was, I kid you not, it was like 3 hours. I mean, that was the problem that, with my son when he was doing stuff. And I said, his mother's not used to that. I said, here's the problem. He waits until you're super busy, and then he does all the stuff knowing that you aren't going to do anything. And then you get so frustrated, you kick him out of the house. Well, you kick him out, which means you go live with your dad. And it was so funny because he was with me for 2 weeks. And I'm not that bad. It's just, it's boring there. You do this. I said, you have rules. You have to be in bed. You know, I put a lot of structure in his life. And he didn't like that. So he's like, I'm glad to be home with you, Mommy. You know, I said, that's fine. And I can't remember the last time I spanked him. I think the last time I spanked him, we were in Hungary and he was misbehaving. And I counted up in the number of spankings. So the more you misbehave, I'm like, okay, you're up to 4. You want 5? And then, you know, you blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, you're up to 5. Do you want 6? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, up to 7. You know, it starts clicking in his mind like, how many spankings do I want? You know, you know, he's like, I said, okay, do you want 8? You just see the gears, you know, running in his head. Anyway, at the end of the day, I said, all right, how many should you get? He said, well, Daddy, you get, it was 9, I think is what he said. I said, well, because you told me the truth and I only remember 7, you're only gonna get 7. So whap, 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 you know, and yeah, okay, his little bottom was sore for like, you know, 5 minutes or something. And then, and this was the great thing about it, we're done. You've learned what's going on. And we start from 0. Everything's over. And I did the same thing when he decided he wanted to fight me when he was 6 years old. And, you know, like he put up his fist and, you know, like, and I don't mean play fist. I mean, he got it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you going to do this? I picked him up and I flipped him up in the air and then I threw him on the bed, which he would have had a lot of fun. Except, you know, whenever you think that you're big, bad, and tough, as soon as your feet come off the ground, you realize,
this is where I made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. I need to rethink my life choices. Anyway, I had him, you know, horizontal, and I slammed him on the bed. And, you know, so, which he would have found fun if it had been any other time. And then
Corbin being my middle child, all boy. His nickname growing up was Terminator. Because his name was Corbin. He was named after the character off, you know, Fifth Element. So my daughter's name is Morgana Raven-Fay. I know what when I cash that in. I know what I'm in for.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure his mom and his dad knew what they were asking for because I think names have power. Yeah. So Corbin, and I call him Corbino. Not Italian at all, actually. No Italian whatsoever. Irish German. He's related on his mom's side to the Donner Party.
Okay. Yeah.
So whenever I make steaks, I just give him that look. It's like, how do you like? He's like, shut up. He's like 6 years old now, so he's like, shut the hell up. I'm like, okay, whatever. And you know, but that's the relationship I had with him. But anyways, me and him were wrestling, and he was like 3 or 4 years old, and he was serious. He was mad, and I'm like, okay, show me what you got. And Crondo's talking to me, and I was, you know, smacking his hands away, you know.
Sure.
I'm having fun letting him work through his tantrum. That was my idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, at least try to work on his form a little bit, even at, you know, 3 years old. And Crondo, my ex-wife, says something, and I turned away for a half second. I came back, pop! And I looked at him, and I was pissed. I was furiously pissed. I think we're outside when this happened. I spit. I spit. I mean, he made me bleed, and I spit. I look at him, look at Cronda, tag, you're it. And I walk away for a second. I come back. She's like, are you mad? I'm like, no.
Sure. The instant you were mad, but you just walked away, calmed down, and came back.
Yeah, and I went over there and I picked him up, and we went back to just playing around. And it just, there's nothing wrong with physical, how should I say this? Being physical with your child is not a horrible thing if it's done right. Spanking your child. As long as it's it should never come from fucking anger. It should never come from anger. It's not a bad thing. I'm of the opinion no one gets to touch my son, my daughter, other than me. Maggie, me and Cronda were trying to figure out how we were going to work. She was going to go to college and take care of Maggie. And I'm like, fuck, I'll just stay home. I'll be the stay-at-home dad. Whatever. You go to college, we'll make this work. And somebody's like, well, you guys daycare. I'm like, I'm not letting anybody else screw up my daughter but me.
Well, I put my son in daycare when I had him in Chicago because I would get him for a few weeks. And what was interesting is I went in the morning, and then I went and I picked up, because it was right around the corner. I picked him up for lunch, and we went to lunch together. And then immediately afterwards, and it was one day he came in, and his mother really didn't enforce like please and thank you as much as she should have. He comes in and says,
me crazy.
as he says, Daddy, can I please have, I forgot what it was. It was some dessert or something. I said, oh, you said please. Yes, you can have whatever you want. And that was part of it. But, the problem I have with so much, whether it's school or anything else, especially with boys, is you have to run the energy out of them. I noticed that, like, you want to talk about abuse, and I'll tell you this because I do this for myself and my son because we go in together. I put him in the cold pool. Now, I know it's not as cold as Chicago, but we're still talking, we're talking 50s, probably in the 50s, and maybe even in the 40s. And
right.
I stay in there until his lips begin to turn blue. Then he gets out, and then he takes a nice hot shower. Now, I've noticed a few things both for myself and him. One is because all of that cold drains a lot of your energy. At the end, his mood vastly improves. He's more focused on whatever he wants to do and things like that. And I think that's the problem that they do with these kids is you can't leave them and not run them around. It used to be when I was a kid, you had recess. So you'd go play during recess. Then we also had lunch. We would go outside after lunch and we'd go run around. And then we would have PE. And then we were done with the end of the day. And
morning recess, lunch recess, afternoon recess. I had 3.
Well, yeah. Well, for us, it was morning recess. Then lunch was basically, which allowed the teachers to decompress too. They could watch and we'd all just go run around and play outside. And, and then they had, then we had PE, the organized aspect.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun, and kids seem to be better behaved, but boy, they have cut back on that so much. But with my son, when he was in daycare, at the end of daycare, there was a park right next to, the train station, or the Brown line. We get off there and he would go play. Now, the problem I had is the park technically closed when it got dark.
Dusk, yeah.
Yeah, like this time of the year, that's like 4:30. So I said, "Screw this. We're not gonna do that until 7 or 8." So I didn't realize this because we're down south for the most part. You put in those snow pants and everything else. You put them on a slide. There's no friction, and they shoot off of it like a rocket.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that was funny. Just watching, pew, and then we'd go home, we'd have dinner, and then we go to bed. And generally, if he goes to bed, I have to go to bed. So it's actually good for me too, just because I said, all right. But the getting the energy out of kids so they can focus is so important, and it seems like this is a society that doesn't want people to do that anymore. It used to be, go run them, exhaust the kids. The kids should be so exhausted they just fall into the bed and go.
Well, the few teachers I know and actually respect, their biggest complaint is something happens to when we were kids. Granted, I'm a few years younger than you are, but when we were kids, we got hurt on the playground. That was on us. We did something, we tripped, kids being kids. Now, if a kid comes home with anything, a paper cut, the teacher's now threatened to be fired because she's not watching the children.
Well, see, here's the thing that gets me about it is because I remember growing up with it. No, son, you have to get your bumps and bruises. Now, the fact that my son has not broken any bones kind of amazes me for a lot of stuff. But
I kind of a theory when it comes to your kid, but I might be wrong, so I kind of keep it to myself.
No, you go ahead and do it. I don't get
offended. I think the one reaction I have with your kid is I after raising Laszlo, who is Aspergian, I think your kid might have. I'm not saying he's full blown, but he might have a touch of it.
Oh no! I had him tested for autism because I thought something was wrong, and all they called it was he was quirky.
Quirky, yeah. I know you said that, and I'm not a doctor, therefore I'm not going to argue with them. But I know I've raised the kid with it.
Well, I know he's not he doesn't fit into the normal social. I mean, he's afraid of social. He's a real introvert, so it takes a lot. Which is why I'm in a drama club and film camp.
Yeah.
And, that's what's going to happen. Now he's starting to like girls too. So like
Yeah, it helps.
well, that part of it comes down to, well, son, you're the only boy in these camps for some reason, and the girls tease him. I mean, they like him and they tease him, but I'm going, well, son, you're going to have to learn to be more assertive if you want to actually get the girls more than just the friend zone. But no, he's I don't worry about him too much. I mean, my big thing is I want him to get the basic skills just like everyone else. I just want him to be functional, which means I want him to start working as soon as possible. I want him to get some responsibility that he knows, and he's working for himself. There are times for him, but no, I mean, I love the little guy, but it always amazes me, this whole idea that somehow any kind of suffering is bad for kids. And I think that you need the kids to be able to have some suffering so they know how to deal with it. And I don't mean, but
there's a difference between the angst and the trials of school being a kid, and there's something far worse.
Well, I mean, people are afraid to tell them that their fish died, and my son living on the farm is used to animals dying left and right. I mean, I hate saying that, but chickens die. Yeah. Bobcats get them, coyotes get them, raccoons, snakes.
God, it's pretty bad when you have. How old is Kronda? If I'm 39, she is 40. Anyways, she was 8 years older than I am. Anyways, we drive by this house, and the reason why I bring this up is you bring animals, and we drive by this house that had like 4 or 5 goats.
Yeah.
And during the summer, we drove past it here recently. The goats are gone. I can't imagine why. She's like, "What happened to goats?" Well, 10 to 1, they got harvest. What do you mean harvest? I mean, they're now chilly.
Well, see, my son can deal better with death. Now, he got mad if animals die without purpose. Like, if they're killed for food, he's okay with it. But she had a couple of pigs, and black heritage pigs. And she was...
Gotcha.
The pigs were selling really well to the store, to like what I would call as boutique restaurants,
Right.
So she was making good money off it, but emotionally it was draining her because the sow kept on stepping on the piglets. And I'm like, what the hell? And she actually gave them room. It was just whatever's going on, the mother, she'd hear the piglets squeal, would panic and then step on more, and barely any survived. They'd have a litter of, or whatever it is, whatever it's called, but it would have like 8 to 12, and maybe 2 would survive because the sow kept stepping on them. And
I wonder how common that is.
Well, when people talk about why they have, they keep them confined in certain areas, I understand why that's done, but but she had him. I guess she gave him about an acre to wander around. And after a while, those pigs got up to like 400 plus pounds, and they weren't even full grown. And I went, holy crap. And I said, do not let him in there because a pig will just mistake him as food and just eat him. I mean, that's...
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean,
God. Yeah.
I mean, people forget about it. Pigs are omnivores, and if anyone's actually seen them, they'll go out and,
my grandma had pigs.
And full-size pigs, people don't realize how big. They think that, we get babe-sized pigs. No, if you look at the full sows, they get up to like 800 pounds and like 8 feet long, and that's what this was going up to. Anyway, it was Seamus and named something else. Anyway, she got rid of him because emotionally she couldn't take all the deaths. That's his mother. And then Seamus died for some reason, and Connor was mad. Oh, he was so mad because the animal died without purpose. That's what got him mad. If it was used for food or a hawk got him, but if it was anything else, and my favorite phrase that my son used to do, because he does this to emotionally manipulate his mom, and it doesn't work for me because I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's just you're saying things to be spiteful, and I don't put up with that. But his mom actually gets like wounded. He said one time my son became completely nihilistic. I wish Daddy had never bred you, is what he told my ex.
Daddy would have never bred you?
Yes, that's what he told his mom.
I mean, I have like 5 different thoughts all trying to compete to come out at once. I mean, that's rough. I mean,
well,
wow.
I think it's hilarious.
Oh, I think it's hilarious too. Don't get me wrong, but that's not something you just like say to your fucking mom.
Well, and that's just it. Is she gets really wounded. She cries, and he used to.
Oh, mom never breeded with you. Fuck.
Oh, I was like, great. I'm raising a little nihilist. And I said, okay, I'm not going to put up with nihilism in my son. So those are certain things. We have discussions, but it's funny because at one point, he would say, "I love you, Daddy. I don't love Mommy," and he would tell her this, or "I don't go out back with Mommy. She's a bad mommy. She should never have kids." He would tell her these things, and finally. Because at the time he didn't like wearing clothes. So I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to see bruises on you. I know. Anyway, he was saying something, and I know her pretty well, and I know him, and I know how she gets sometimes when she's angry. When she gets angry, she'll throw stuff, but she won't throw stuff at him. But the way he was making it sounds like she was throwing things at him and leaving big bruises. First off, you don't have any bruises. And so we had to sit down and talk right before I went to Iraq. He said, "You keep this up." I said, Child Protective Service is going to come get you. And I said, they're going to take you away from your mom. I can't get you. And your grandparents are going to take about a week to get here. And you're going to be stuck in foster care. Anyway.
Nobody wants that.
Oh, God, no. God, no. After I hear about foster care, I'm like, man, talk about abused children in foster care.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I had the conversation for another night, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it was that bad. I thought that, anyway, they went over, and so all of a sudden he says, "Daddy, I love you, but not as much as Mommy." And he changed his tune like that. I said, well, good. Because, when people talk about spanking, I said, look, if I spank a child before they touch a hot plate or slap their hand, that hurts a lot less than them getting a permanent burn.
I don't actually remember ever having to spank my daughter, to be honest. I mean, she had her moments, but nothing. I would just growl and she would start crying.
There's certain ones. Well, like with my son, I said, "Do you want me to spank you? Or do you want me just to hug you?" And I mean, like, do kind of the bear hug and just hold him in place. He's like, "Please spank me, just spank me," because he didn't like being restrained. I said, "Okay, that's fine. I could." But as they get older, you start playing mind games on them.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, well, I don't want it. It takes a lot more pain. I have to break something to really get him into the pain aspect. But I can play mind games with him, and that works so much better as they get older because their imaginations play with them.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, so he was bad mouthing his mom. Now he was bad mouthing his mom. She's like, you need to come help me. I said, okay. So I said, all right. I said, next time this happens, I'm going to drive down there. And of course he does it late at night. And I'm like, really? On a weekday? And I have work the next day. I'm like, ugh. I said, it's an hour there. It's an hour back plus whatever. So I said, okay. I said, well, can I do it tomorrow? She's like, no, we got plans. I said, well, I can't wait 2 days. That's too long for him. I said, tell him I'm going to be there. I said, I'll tell him I'll be there in about an hour. So I start driving down. So I call my parents. I'm just like, da 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 da. So I get up to her gate, and I open the gate, and I drive in, and he falls to the ground crying like, "Oh, because he didn't know what was going to go on." I said, "Well, and she lives in a country road that there's no lights or anything else." I said, "You know what? Let me hand him a flashlight. We'll put him at the end of the road, and you can sit on her place and watch. You can watch him walk all the way home." I said, "Let me just put him there for an hour, or I'm sorry, not an hour." I said, let me just drive him out a mile. I said, that takes about 20 minutes for him to drive home. I'll hand him a flashlight, and he can walk home in the dark. I said, and boy, you want to talk about when you're in the country and your mind gets going on all sorts of stuff.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes. And so, anyway, she's like, no, you can't. All right, fine. But that was. I said, "Why are you good for me, but not for your mom?" He says, "Because I'm afraid of you." I said, "Why are you afraid of me?" I said, "I'm not the one that really does that much." He says, "Because I don't know what you will do." I said, "Oh, okay." Oh, I did that.
I left
he's
my
a,
ex,
go ahead.
left my ex-wife's house last night, Christmas Eve. I took over Maggie's presents and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she wasn't being she's never meaning to be a brat. She just has a very bratish sense of humor, and it's my fault. I'm the one who programmed her. And she's laying down. It's like, I don't want to get up. It's like almost midnight. I kind of understand that. She's in bed. I lean over. I give her a kiss. I'm like, Merry Christmas. I just want you to know you're my favorite daughter. As I'm walking out the door, it finally clicked in. She's like, only daughter. I'm like, yeah, And she's like, I'm your only. Well, no, I said you're my favorite daughter.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm your only daughter. I'm like, that you know of. And I close my door, and she comes running up. What the hell does that mean? You don't know what I was doing before I met your mom.
Oh, well, Connor was laughing over for the whole thing. He's like, well, I'm also your least favorite child. I said, no, you're my favorite child. I said, I wouldn't I wouldn't trade you in. I said, there are times I'm tempted, but, my father, we were in Hawaii, and he threatened about leaving him behind and replacing with another kid. and my son went over and said, there's only one of me. No one can take my job. I mean, he got defensive about the whole thing. My father was just screwing with him. He got so bad. My father stopped at the side of the road in Hawaii and said, get out. And he's only like 9. He's like, get out of the car. You're done. And he's like, I said, yeah. I said, we're all grumpy. You're not helping. And then I said, you're allowed to complain if you're funny. I said, but if you're not funny. And so he tried doing stuff. I said, well, I get to 4. You have to do better than that. Because when he was really little and he would complain, he was hilarious. It wasn't just a complaint. He would come up with all sorts of ideas about why something shouldn't exist. Like he hit his head on a door and he went off for like 5 minutes about why we need to get rid of the door. And I would just feed him questions that were like, kind of sarcastic. He was hilarious at that point. But then he lost that. And he just like, hey, I'm like, look, if you're just going to whine, I'm not going to listen to it. But yeah, he was great. I loved it.
Going back to Laszlo is 21 years old, 22. God, he got old on me. 22-year-old aspirating kid with my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the traits to take from your stepfather, I don't count them as my stepkids. Me and a few people are going around. They're my kids. Hell, me and my mom kind of got into it. Well, they're your half kids. I'm like, sort of like how Chris and Aaron are my half brothers. Well, you were all raised together. Well, I helped raise them. They're my kids. So yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, my aunt views my father, not her biological father, but my father, as her dad. And hey, this is the person that raised me. This is the person that I grew up and loved. Her biological father, not so much. And I don't know what the story was there because my grandmother got a divorce in the 1930s. So I don't know what was going on.
That's almost unheard of back then.
Oh, yeah. Well, my grandmother was also there during Pearl Harbor. So, at Pearl Harbor, or right across the street, rather.
It comes to the point where you just get tired of people's shit. I get it.
I don't know exactly what went on. But that takes a lot, it takes, that was the days of no fault divorce where you actually had to come up with a good reason. And so I don't know what happened. But it was interesting. But my aunt's great for the whole thing. And, we see like old home videos and somehow my grandfather had color movies during World War II. I don't know how he did. Well, he used to steal aviation gas too. So sometimes they would have it, and you would see my aunt playing around, during World War II.
Yeah.
Just over there. So it was interesting for that whole thing. So.
Yeah.
But you listen to the. That's why whenever, people talk about feminism, I said, look, first wave feminism, fine. Second wave, I understand some of it, but I know how second wave feminists treated my mother. And I said, No, they aren't.
There's nothing. There's nothing wrong for a person, male or female, to stand up for their rights. I think once again this goes back to what I said in the very beginning of the show. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Oh no, I agree with you there. No, I'm saying, but the second wave feminist got angry at my mother for staying home, and I said, well, look, it's one thing that, and I said that was the thing that really turned me off about that. And to be fair, once you got they were pre-third wave feminists, really, not the ones that are saying, hey, we want equality. It was kind of the, men are bad kind of thing. Anyway,
ball burning, hate every man that's walking.
Yeah,
that was the. Was the 80s?
No, that's your third wave feminist. That was some of your second wave feminists, but it wasn't. But but my mother was kind of mad about certain things like that. It's like, well, I want to stay at home and raise children. What is wrong with that? And these women like, you're not furthering the cause for other women. I said, well, look.
Oh, I caught shit from guys that became a stay-at-home dad. I'm like, all I gotta do is keep house and cook and spend time with my daughter. How many fathers get to say that?
Oh, see, I love that. But it was funny because all the women I did, like, no, damn it.
Well, when you're basically a college dropout that can only get bullshit jobs, and your wife at the time is in college to become a minister, her career just seems a whole lot more important than your factory work. And that's kind of what it broke down to being. I'm getting paid $13 an hour, and she's going to be getting paid how much?
Oh, no. I fully agree with that. It's one of these things that, my archaeologist friend who's Jewish, his wife makes more than he does. And she's actually, when people talk, I think she's I don't know if she's a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. Anyway, she was trying to understand Dungeons and Dragons to see if it would work with these kids to break through with them. So whenever we talk about therapy, I'm like, yeah, she's looking at it to use it in her practice as some therapy. But
I can see the argument. I could definitely see the argument. You have a kid who has been abused, whatever. You give them an imaginary imaginary character to, there's safety in it. I get it.
Well, my whole thing really comes down to, when we were talking about for therapy, look, that is in a clinical setting. Don't bring that to the game because, dude, we're here to have fun and we're not here to work through your problems. And I think that's
it really depends. It depends on the group because most of my friends are ball busters, but but that's just how we are with each other. That's how I was taught how men treated each other. We were all good friends. We'd go to bat for each other any day of the week. But ball busting, it was a thing. It's like I can make fun of my brothers. No one else can. I can make fun of my friends, but don't you fucking do it in front of me.
Well, it's the whole thing that, hey, you're not part of the group, that you haven't earned that right yet. There's some of that aspect. But the other part is, my friends will pull me out and help me out with stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And those are the things that I look at. And to be fair, most of my friends that have been in the role-playing group have always been there for me whenever I needed help. It's like, oh, you need some help? Sure. Okay. And I have never had any problems with that. And I said, they may not be the most powerful people, but they'll help me move.
Right.
Most people, they're there whenever I want to go do something. We hang out. And I said, yeah, that's that. I don't know why in the world. And I don't even have to see people. Like I had some friends I didn't see for 10 years. After 10 years, we just get right back together and we just go along like, oh, okay. Oh, you got married? Cool. Oh, you had a kid? Cool. All right, let's go do something. It's not like we don't have things in common. So yeah, I mean, I don't understand.
No, me and Jade have been friends for a long time, and when we're not on camera or in public, oh my God, so much hell on both sides, just so much hell. And when we get on camera, I pick on them, but not at the same level as I do when we're off camera, because no one needs it. It's friend. Our shit does not need to be advertised. I'm not going to make, even with you, I'm not going to make a joke towards you on Why We're Alive just because there's a time and a place. I mean, there's levels. Let me put it this way: there's a spectrum of jokes.
Yeah,
I might do ha 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 ha. Well, I'm not going to go to wow, I'm a dick. You know.
you know what though is some part of me goes, and I shrug this off, is when you're around the military, you have to get used to that. And it was one of those things that, I'd say something, they'd be laughing because they'd do some double entendre. Like, okay, fine. Really just and some of my coworkers like, how in the world can you take this? I said, because I really don't care. I'm getting paid. I get stressed out. My big thing is when it comes to work, just get the obstacles out of my way. I'll fight with people on certain points. Just get rid of those obstacles in my way. That's all I want.
No, I agree.
That's let me do my job, and that's the problem with some things. Is, I like to talk to people. I'm an introvert. It's the old thing of what do they talk about? It is I need to go back to my fortress of solitude every so often, where I can block everyone out, and I said, a lot of us are introverts. We deal with each other for a while, then we break up. I don't want to spend 24 hours with someone. My son is about it, but anything else, I'm like, okay.
I go to work. I deal with people at work. I come home most nights. I'll see who's on YouTube. If there's some people I want to talk to, you'll say hey, or hello, however I fucking say it. And there's other nights where I'm thinking, I could do a stream tonight, but do I really want to?
Well,
no, not really.
And like I said, I was like, you should start your own stream. No offense, I'd rather just talk to you guys because I don't want to feel like I have to do something. Oh
yeah, trust me, the pressure is there too. It's like, well, you need to come out with some of your standalone videos where you talk about something you care about. I'm like, spray and neuter your pets. I got nothing. Some of
it is okay, fine. I don't mind some of it, but look, I immerse myself enough listening to the politics and stuff like that. And it's okay. I want to have some fun with things. And as much as we talked about politics, that was what we moved on to other things too.
I'll talk politics as long as it's not the main conversation for the rest of the night.
No, the problem that I have with a lot of it is people take it personal instead of saying, hey, what is your perspective and what is your perspective? And really, like I tell with my son, is ask people why they feel a certain way, or ask them. I said, that's what I miss from actual discussions is instead of saying you're a bad person or you don't care, okay, why do you believe in this? How did you come from it? And usually, people can come down to, people can say, okay, we disagree on certain things and get along. And I really do feel a lot of times the media wants to separate people, so they're fighting amongst each other instead of asking, like, what's in this bill? That's the way I really feel about it. Or like, well, what really happened? And I said, okay, fine. It's like my son asked me things about police. I said, look, we can all agree that police do bad things. Let's talk about how to reform them. Let's not play this, we should not have any police. Stop taking these super extreme positions. Let's ask what we believe should be the proper response for police, and let's try working towards that.
I agree. I think a community that sits down and have a conversation is a whole lot better than a community that says, well, that's not my problem.
Well, there's that one. The other thing is, what was the old saying? He said, you're in trouble when the two sides stop talking, not when they're arguing. When they're arguing.
Yeah. It's like going to the doctor and he's no longer telling you to lose weight. It's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, okay, well, what can we do? And I think that's what it comes down to. So I said, okay, let's have discussions. This is one of the reasons I liked science when I was a kid. Because in science, you were supposed to have robust discussions. And I said, once this becomes personal, we're not talking about this topic. You're trying to do character assassination. And I said, that means that you don't have an argument anymore. I was like, oh, okay. People, the part of it is I don't want, like I was trying to get myself, because I do this all the time, is I don't want people to become so firmly entrenched in their beliefs that they can't change them. So ask them, well, why do you believe this? And well, what about this? And the other thing is you're treating a human being as a human being, and that's what gets me about it.
Politics was never supposed to be a freaking lifestyle, and that goes for the normal person.
Yeah.
I mean,
like everyone can talk about politics, and most of the time, that's what I try telling my son. Most of the time, people want the same end result. The question is how to get there. It's like, oh, well, we should have free healthcare for everyone. I said, well, here are the problems that you have with completely. I said, well, it's not free. I said, well, we can go back and forth over it. And I have my own issues with healthcare, just because really what we want is we want better results. When we go to the doctor, we want them to tell us on what will fix us. I mean, that's really what we want, or what are our best options. And I don't feel like I was getting mad with the whole thing with the doctors. I finally went to a massage therapist who did better work for me at cheaper prices than me going to the doctor. I said, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And to me, I would have respected the doctor a lot more and said, you know what, it sounds like you have this. You should probably go see a massage therapist because they'll be able to fix that. Oh, okay. And guess what? It's the same reason that, I don't know about you, but if you go to a store and they say, well, we don't have what you want, go to our competitor and they'll get you what you want. I'm more likely to go back to that store where the guy gave me good advice than I am and buy something from him than if he had just said, oh, I'll give you something which didn't do the right job.
Right. Yeah. No, that's that. God, yeah. No, and that's rare to come by. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, that's the. I don't know how everyone else feels about it. Well, it's just like whenever I go to a game store. If you give me a place to play, I want to buy some stuff from you to keep you in business.
Oh yeah.
It's okay.
I have a local game shop that has like 2 back areas. Hold on. 1, 2, 3 back areas where you play, and plus he also has a place where you can go sit and eat because he does want food and drink in the game areas. Yeah. I mean, and he has a wonderful setup. And to be honest, every other game store I go to, he is the gold standard. If they don't come close to that, I will, unless I absolutely have to, I won't go back.
Well, I think the problem that I have with a lot of game stores, and boy, if I was going to do something, is sometimes parents view those places as for children. No, this is not a daycare for your kid. That's one. That's one of the problems I have sometimes. But the other one is if you could do like 2 or 3 different things, like if. This is what I would do, is I would put in a small restaurant with laundry and video games and then the game shop next to it. And that way, especially college kids, because they need to do their laundry, will come there. They'll buy food from you. Boy, you get money in all sorts of different directions. And,
I had a local theater back when I was in high school that, well, not in high school. Yeah, when I was high school, when I came to States, laundromat, movie theater. My mom was like, we're going to be here for 3 or 4 hours. Peace. I'm going to go see what's over at the movie theater.
Exactly. And let's be honest, while you're doing laundry and you get hungry and you start going there, there's I think it was called Harvey Washbangers in College Station, but they used to do that.
I've heard of that name before.
Well, maybe it was a chain, but they had it where, it put up, whichever one you had, and they would tell you when it was done. But then they had it with you where you could order food and stuff. And I said, yeah, I want people to keep coming back for not just that, or as many reasons. I want them to spend all of their paycheck at my place, and they feel like, oh, that's a great place to hang out. Well, I got to do laundry. The problem, I've been to every laundromat I've been to,
right,
is it just sucks. I hate waiting there.
Laundromats are fairly depressing by themselves. I mean, I have a friend who met his wife at a laundromat back in college, but it's, I don't know. It's, I also have another friend who met his wife in Vegas, and he is the only person I know that can fall backward and never land in shit, and it drives me crazy. He goes to Vegas, and he made a lot of money back in the early 2000s. He's a computer guy, and he made his millions. Made his millions. Anyways, pisses me off too because he was such a jackass. Anyways.
Yeah.
He goes to Vegas. Is like, you're coming with me. I'm like, no, I can't. A, I don't have the funds, and I really don't like other people paying my way. I'm kind of weird that way. And B, I don't want to go to Vegas. I will go to Cancun with you. I will go to Amsterdam. I will go anywhere else. I will not go to Vegas because I have this odd feeling I'll get drunk and wake up tomorrow in a shittier situation than the night before.
Sure.
He goes to Vegas. Wakes up the next day with a wife.
Oh. Are they still together?
Oh, yeah.
Oh
yeah. She's a dancer. He has his own. She has her money, which is, like strippers. Her money is good money, and then she's hot. He's got his money. He's moved out to Vegas full time. He works still. I mean, he works as much as he has to. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
She works because she wants to work.
Yeah.
And they're happy.
People don't understand how much strippers make for money. That's what amazes me.
Yeah. I've dated a few. Trust me. I'm like, I can be a pet. This was in my early 20s. I can't keep up with that.
I had a friend that his wife became a stripper, and he was quite familiar with stuff. And boy, he was getting jealous because she was making about $200,000 a year. And he said
that's the downfall to almost any guy who dates a stripper. Some kind of jealousy.
Well, he was jealous of the money, not the fact that she was doing the stripping. Yeah, but he felt less like a man. But what got me about it is I knew about this because we were talking. Well, anyway, we went to the theater and they saw him, and it's like, oh my God, some of my friends went, I've gotten a lap dance from her. I was just laughing. I said, look, I'm too cheap. I see strippers, and all I can think is ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. But what I thought was interesting was, I talked to some of them just outside of while I was waiting for my friends. I was talking to a couple of them, just waiting. Super friendly, very, very. They seem very normal from that aspect of just, personable. They weren't trying to hustle anything. I said, well, I'm just waiting for my friends. And she says, well, I'm waiting for my boyfriend. I was like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. Just talk for a little bit. Like, oh, okay. But it just amazed me with the whole, because he was telling me how much she was making. And she said, when the time, like he was telling me the times, and she was working double shifts and how much. Yeah. That was like, and I was just thinking about it. She said, oh yeah, if you go to Vegas, you can make this much more. The problem is that many of the strippers get into drugs, and they don't want to treat it as a full-time job. If you treat it as a 40-hour work week and you save all your money and you buy a house and everything else, they're set. They're set by the time that they're in their mid-20s.
I was college. The first one I ever dated she was in college.
Sure.
But her plan was, I'm going to strip for these many years. And she did. She really did. Anyways, as soon as she's done with these many years, because knee issues, arthritis, joints, I mean, it's amazing enough, it's actually hell in the body as well. And she's like, then I'm going to go to college. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And she was legitimately squaring away money to go to college. She figured out how much a semester was going to cost, how much this and that. She was going to go to part-time dancing. And we dated for like 2 or 3 years. And rent was always paid. There was always food. I mean, between the two of us, my paycheck at best was roughly $1,000. No, I wish it was $1,000. It was about $800 a month.
Okay.
Her, after everything was said and done, she was in the thousands. And I'm like, okay. And it basically broke down like, what bill do you want to be responsible for? Because this will be your bill. Then we cut down rent right down the middle.
Sure.
And that's how it did. And I didn't get jealous. I realistically just didn't get jealous. What killed that relationship with me was my aunt was in town, and I'm like, hey, can I talk you into wearing like just covering up some of the ink. She's like, why? I'm like, my aunt's not going to exactly. She's like, well, your aunt's going to accept me for who I am, or it's not going to happen. I'm like, fuck. And there was just no coming back. There was just no coming back from that. But no, she was a great woman. I think she got a law degree not that long ago.
Oh, cool. I don't knock it. The problem that I noticed was, again, the women who choose part-time, like they do it 3 days a week. They do this, they get drunk, they start getting, and instead of trying to say, hey, this is going to be a job, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this, instead of being responsible, it's like, well, the money will always come in. And then you're going, well, stop doing this. You're just like the whole thing with tattoos. Don't get tattoos. That's a waste of money. The other thing is, by my understanding is, I was listening to one they talk about, if you don't have tattoos, a lot of times it's easier to get like modeling jobs or things like that. And that's hard to tell people. We're all kind of bad about this, but when you're young, hey, this is the best way of doing things. You're like, no, I know better. I'm going to do it this way. And you're going, okay, that's.
No. Growing up, if you want a professional job in the professional kitchen, no ink, no weird piercings. Now you walk into any freaking high-end kitchen, and don't be surprised if the head chef is maybe have a full sleeve, maybe 2 full sleeves, tattoo, and it's just, well, it's art. Its argument is the art argument, I'm like, whatever. I have tattoos, I'm not going to.
But if you can cover them up, well, and the thing is what people forget about it is.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I can't really cover up is this one. But if I'm wearing long sleeves, and it's business.
Well, I think what people forget about is, you have to look at your clientele. The other part is, if they're easily covered up, your clientele will never see them. But it's a lot easier to give yourself more opportunities for those jobs than less. And I think that's sometimes what people forget about is, well, they're going to accept me for who I am. Well, that's great when you're at the top of your field. Well, if you just try and work your way up, hold off. And I say,
yeah, and that's if you live in a state where you have rights as a worker.
Well, what's interesting is, as much as I hear stuff is, we talk about workers' rights, but and I've heard different things. Is I've known some people that like living in right to work states rather than living in the, it just depends on what kind of work you want to do and where you are. But regardless, whatever it is, shut your mouth, do the work, and work hard, and that will usually get you further. Which is the problem, is getting people to learn to shut their mouth. And I say this to my son. He'll be doing something, and it's just like, son, shut up. Well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? You're just getting yourself in worse trouble because you want the last word. I said, has anything ever gotten better by you saying more than less?
If I didn't work for the people I work for, I would have been fired forever ago. I mean, when with Thanksgiving and that vegan shows up and tells me, vegan shows up. No one tells me there's going to be a vegan there. Good thing I made a decent salad, and she was bitching that there was 3 turkeys on the table. The staff is just telling me that she's giving them all kinds of attitude and everything else. And it comes down and says, well, she wants a vegan friendly ice cream. I grab a bowl. I go to where the ice comes out. I put the bowl in. I got a great big scoop of ice and sent it up there.
What bothers me about this is, so years ago, my friend, he was doing Thanksgiving, and this couple came over and they were vegan. You know what they did? Is they brought their own dishes. Now I know you're a little bit different for this because you're doing professional catering, but so you're doing this as a professional, but they didn't mind. They're like, have whatever you want, but they understood that they have special dietary requirements, and really, the easier, well, like I had a friend of mine, we went to, Riata over in Fort Worth, great restaurant. My friend had gluten issues, and she went over and she talked to the she said, "Oh, I'm gluten free." The chef in the back's like, "Oh, no problem. I'll create you a sauce that's gluten free." I forgot what it was. It was something like a hollandaise sauce or something like that.
Right.
And, she came back and she was like, "Oh, this is great," but it wasn't on the menu. He's just like, you can be nice about it, but yeah, if you're gonna be one of these bitchy people about things,
I just had nothing. If I knew that she was coming, I would have made something appropriate for her. But
these people think that they're entitled to stuff. If you have a special dietary requirement, you need to let people know. I mean, that's just, yeah, okay, fine. If I go somewhere and I don't find a lot of food, my friend, we were out on a date and she took me out to, I said, I'm hungry. She's like, "Oh, we'll go over here." She didn't tell me it was a vegetarian restaurant. I'm like, "Where's the chicken?" And she says, "Oh, this is a vegetarian restaurant." I'm like, "Oh, you're trying to poison me." It was
every once in a while, if there's a new vegan or vegetarian place, my mom, "Would you take me there?" I'm like, "Sure, we'll go." Because I like going to different restaurants because it's just different tools I could put in my toolbox once I figure out how they once I have something new. And I just look at her, we go somewhere that's vegan heavy, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting Mickey D's when we leave here."
I remember telling my boss, we were up in Chicago, we were driving. He's like, "Well, let's stop over at McDonald's." I said, "No, he said, if I'm driving, we're not stopping at McDonald's. I refuse to eat there." and I said, "We are going to eat someplace that has better." There's certain places I don't want to eat: Taco Bell, McDonald's, and Subway. Like they're.
Oh yeah, I agree. I completely understand that. It is just Mickey D. Oh, honestly, I'd rather go to Little Caesars.
Yeah,
because pizza's pizza. I mean, some pizza is amazing, and there's pizza that sucks.
Yes.
But for the most part, Little Caesar pizza is not great pizza, but it's not horrible pizza either.
It gets the best value.
Yeah, we got $6 for a pie. Yeah, 6 or 7. Used to be 5, now it's like 6 or 7, but still.
I'd much rather go to Mod Pizza because you can. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So Mod Pizza, you basically go in and you tell them what toppings you want on there.
Right.
And it's like, "Oh, I want." So I go in and I'm like, "Yeah, I want this cheese and this cheese and this cheese and this cheese, and I want the bacon, I want the jalapenos, I want the chicken. Can I get the bacon, and I also want the sausage?" And they just, they just grab a handful and just put it over your pizza, and then they throw it into the oven. And it's a thin crust, takes about 6 or 7 minutes. They pull it out, and it's kind of a fast food. And I usually get a basil pesto pizza. I like that. I've said I'm not a big fan of the tomato sauce.
Fair enough.
I will say this much. People talk about New York style. I'm going, if it's a white pizza, yes, but I still like deep dish. That's still much better to me.
There's a restaurant. There's a restaurant in Champaign, Illinois called Papa Del's.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know of it?
No, I've been to Champaign just once for some training, but
Champaign's my favorite town. It's one of my favorite towns. Anyway, and Papa Del's, you're looking at $50 for a pie, but this is, I mean, the crust is.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying it's the greatest, but I liked it was Giordano's, and if you got the what was it, the large, and then he put all the toppings in there, the thing was like 4 pounds.
There was I can't remember what the restaurant was. They died out a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago. They died out a while ago, but they were home of the Belly Buster.
Okay.
And it also started with a G, and they had like a blimp as their thing. I can't remember their name, but it was a slop pizza. It really was a high school slop pizza, but it was freaking good. And one slice would fill you up. Everything in the kitchen sink was basically thrown in, and it was good.
There was a place in College Station called Potato Shack, and basically they got a potato. And then
there's one. Yeah, I know that place. Okay, yeah.
Well, I don't know if for me it's only I've only seen College Station, but they got a baked potato, and then you got a normal whatever. So you can get chicken parmesan or fajita, or
Maybe
it was
it's not the same
it
place.
was basically a normal meal that was put on a potato.
No, the potato place I'm thinking about is they had some monster potatoes. I mean, monster potatoes, and you basically paid for getting a loaded potato was like $5 or $6, and all it was a potato, but it had a mountain of sour cream, bacon, and so forth on it.
So this is what they have. They have the Texas chili, ham and cheese, queso con carne, barbecue chopped beef, chicken fried steak. Then they also have the cattleman, the cordon bleu, garlic parmesan, barbecue chicken, bacon cheeseburger. So basically what they did is they made a hamburger and then put it on top of a potato. It was the Italian chicken.
Enough.
Oh, it was great. Well, that's one of the things I like down here is I like to go to barbecue place because I can get
I want to go to that place in Franklin. I know everybody. I've heard a few people talk negative about, but man, every person, culinary chef that I respect, sings the praise of that place, Franklin's Barbecue or whatever it's called.
You know what though is I'm not disagreeing. I have never been to Franklin's.
Right.
Most of the time, if I go to barbecues, I get it because I like it cut by the pound, so I can determine how much I'm going to eat just from that. So I don't get all the sides all the time. Sometimes they'll include sides. I'm like, look, I just want the meat, or I get the stuffed potato. So I get the potato, and then they put in the sour cream. I don't want sour cream, but they'll put in the cheese, the bacon, chives, onions. Jalapenos, and then they'll put the brisket in it, and you get the whole thing, or pulled pork.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, I love it. Well, like I said, this Potato Shack was great. We used to go down there, and it's just so funny when you start looking at like, oh, you can get the beef fajita, which is beef fajita, onions, peppers, chives, cheddar, butter in a potato. And the potatoes were huge. Oh, those were great. I mean, just looking at this, half price. Oh God.
There was a place here locally, a Mexican restaurant, also down Champaign, called La Bambas. Burritos as big as your head. You walk out of a bar at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning for my heavy night college drinking, and La Bamba was open. There was nothing special about these burritos, but it was basic burritos, the huge ass burrito. It sobered you up.
They had a place here, which I'm trying to remember, but it was so fun because everyone talks about Chipotle. I didn't really like Chipotle. Qdoba I liked a lot better. Qdoba I liked a lot better. I used to go to Qdoba and like, what do you want? He said, well, I said, I don't want the beans. Just give me the rice and the meat and queso and the cheese. And so we'd get that. And I mean, that was plenty for me. I mean, now that we work from home more often, I don't spend nearly as much money eating out, but
I get it. Tell you the truth, what I was looking for last night, food-wise, was I was looking for Chinese food.
No, you told me that you were looking for Chinese. And all I can think is, and then we were talking about A Christmas Story.
That's why. That was legitimately why. I was like, I wanted Christmas. I gotta work. And I'm like, I don't want to go home and cook. I just spent the entire day cooking. No, I'm good. And no, everybody was closed except for Casey's. I ended up getting like 3 slices of pizza. So
I was just gonna mention pizza sounds really good.
Pizza's always good.
Well, here they had one you don't think it's that big until you buy it, but it's a 20-inch pizza, and you can get stuffed pizza. And you can make it custom made. And so, and you're like, all right, I want the stuffed pizza. The thing was so heavy it was bending the box, so we had to be careful about that. Yeah,
there's another place down at Champaign called Gumby Pizza, like Gumby the claymation.
Yeah.
And they had these pokey sticks.
Okay.
And their wings were really good. I mean, it was very gimmicky type of place, but it was good. It's I don't know if I'm not a picky eater. I've never been a picky eater.
I am a picky eater, but as my parents put it is, I'm a picky eater, but I can almost always find something to eat, which isn't, like I know what I want. It's like, look, my son's doing it the same way. Okay, I want a hamburger. I don't want any vegetables. I don't want ketchup, mustard, or anything else on there. I want the meat and the cheese, right? Or bacon. That's it. Now, that's not that hard to do. Back in the day when McDonald's was, boy, they'd have to make me my own hamburger if that was fresh, because they put everything right on there. I said, well, hold on. So I used to get, that would be about the only thing that would happen to me. But
okay, the place I'm thinking about, or you were talking about, there's one in Dixon, Tennessee, and I've gone there a few times. It's called the Tater Shack. Okay. Same premise.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's
hard to fuck up on a potato.
Yeah, yep. Okay, I'm looking it up right now. Well, no, there's Potato Shack Plus, which was the College Station one. I was trying to see the Dixon Tater Shack. Yeah, I mean, there's some great things out there. Barbecue is, I'm kind of, I know what I like around here. Which,
oh God, living in Nashville, Tennessee, the best barbecue I had the entire time I was in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, with Martin's and a handful of other barbecue places, came out of a fucking gas station.
And so some of the, it was fairly cheap. I used to get, they call it A-Bears, which was there's a little shack over, next to the college. We used to go there. And their crawfish etouffee was great. And you get it in there, and it was just, let's see, Herbert's. Let's see, I don't know if it's still there.
I'm gonna torture myself for the next couple days. I don't know when, but I'm gonna go see the new Avatar movie, and I'm gonna sing his praise just to piss off some people. Because of how much bullshit that movie is getting.
So this is what I've heard, and I think this is fair. One is it's visually spectacular. So people say you go in there and it's just visually wonderful. But then they go over and like, could you make a less in-your-face environmental message was one. And then the other one when they said was the storyline's kind of crap. I said, well, okay, but even people who are real particular over it are like, it's worth seeing once, but it's not one of these movies that I would see over and over again by myself.
I'll see it once and be done with it. Yeah. But of course it's an environmental movie. I mean, the first one's environmental heavy movie. Why wasn't the second one? Well, they're incorporating Polynesian. I'm like, they're alien cat people. I mean,
I just want movies to be entertaining. That's all I want. And if you're going to put a message in there, put it in that subtext or those lower, but that's one of the reasons that.
The first one was a retelling. I might be wrong, but the way
Dances
I would
with Wolves.
What?
Dances with Wolves.
Well, yeah.
I not that I minded either way. I never saw Dances with Wolves. Like, it was fine. It was. I mean. Come on, could you use some other name besides unobtainium? Come on, James Cameron, you can do better than that. That was part of the, I look at it, all right.
He's spent the last 30 years trying to make this movie. 30 years. And he's got the money to pump out all three of the movies. The next couple movies come out. Critics be damned.
Well, here's the thing. Now it's Disney. Disney's going to be cutting back on a lot of movies because they're losing hand over fist in money.
Well, if they stop making shitty movies, they wouldn't have that problem.
Well, it's not that movies can't have messages. It's just you put it more in subtext. It's much easier to bring it where it's not at the forefront and it's more in the background. But part of the James Cameron to me has never been the greatest as far as dialogue. I think that he has wonderful ideas for stuff.
He needs to find his Spielberg.
George
Lucas and Spielberg make great movies together as long as you got somebody, one person's strength is the writing and the other person's strength is the camera.
I don't disagree with you. Well, I think that's a lot of the aspect was, when we talk about the prequels for Star Wars, to me that was George Lucas trying to show off ILM more than trying to tell a great story.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard, once again, it might not be true, but it makes me giggle every time I heard about it because, it could be a true. You know why it took him X amount of years to pump out the next 3 movies? We're talking about the beginning, the second 3.
Yeah,
he was waiting for his divorce to go through. He didn't want to share that money with his ex-wife.
Well, and I don't doubt it, but what amazes me was, so if you remember the original Star Wars, he redid some of the ILM stuff.
Oh yeah.
And, for the which I still prefer some of the old things. I remember seeing it in the theater. Even when he re-released it, it still was the #1 movie for several times, for a few weeks. That's what gets me about it is, that was a movie that cut through a lot of stuff. And I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. And his wife is the reason that Star Wars she got an Academy Award for editing. I saw the original cut that they were going to do.
Yeah.
I said, oh, this would have been a disaster. But I think the same thing applies to George R.R. Martin. You need someone to, I don't want to say, you need someone to hem you in and say, look, this doesn't make a good story, or you need to focus on this. And when you become too powerful, they just let you off the hook. And because you're not used to those constraints, you don't know where to stop.
I mean, Martin's been around freaking forever. I mean, he wrote scripts for the original Star Trek, a TV series. I mean, his name is all over Hollywood for scripts.
Sure. Oh, well, he did that also for Beauty and the Beast with Linda Hamilton and
right. I mean, I don't mind his writing. It's like Ken Follett, the guy who wrote Pillar of the Earth.
Okay.
His style of writing is a very POW. No, well, you are a prisoner of his writing. I know that's not what that means, but I was trying to be clever. But it's very POV heavy, and it reads like a damn history book. Today in history class, we're going to be talking about blah blah blah. And that's how he writes. And so, yeah, if you can deal with it, it's a great novel. If you can't deal with it, I'm sorry.
Well, part of me when I start looking at things is you still need an editor to come in, and because my friend was trying to write a book, and she paid this editor, I think for 3 chapters, and the editor came back with scathing things, and she was pissed off, because she said everything the editor said was right.
Oh, that's even worse.
Well, she's like, well, but if you have a good editor to tell you when you're doing something right and what's wrong, it really does improve your writing.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I mean. Is it's the same thing that as much as we talk about D&D, I don't think that they're whether they talk about the feedback, and I'm not against the feedback. I think sometimes some of the things I'm hearing with One D&D actually sound very positive, but at a certain point, they need to start understanding that. I agree with Shadow about this. Setting over system. You have a system. Start putting in settings that start putting limitations on things, and you'll get a better setting. But when you put when everything's allowed, it waters down your setting so much, no one really cares. It doesn't mean anything. The point of, like when I was growing up as a kid, okay, you had Greyhawk, then they talk about Forgotten Realms, but then you had Dragonlance at the beginning, and they each had their own set of rules. And by having their own set of rules, it made them unique and distinct. And I know we were talking, what was the last night with DM James? We were talking about that. I don't remember any of us just playing one setting. We would play all sorts of different settings. Oh, yeah, we'll do Dark Sun at this time. Oh, well, we'll do Ravenloft at this point. Okay, we'll do kind of this Forgotten Realms, or Dragonlance. And I said, I didn't know people that just, at least as my group, none of us just played one setting. Someone got a setting and said, "Oh, this is cool," and then we started playing that one, and then that would wind down. We play another one, or we might have 3 or 4 games going concurrently. Each in a different setting, and I think that's where D&D is kind of messing up. Is they're afraid to tell people no. If you're in the Eberron setting, this is your limitations. If you're the Dragonlance setting, this is your limitations.
Well, at least with
Go ahead.
when Pathfinder came out, Pathfinder in 3.5 was supposed to be compatible to a certain point.
Sure.
Then it left that realm of possibility. They went far the opposite direction. I think, as long as it follows the same rules, if all, across the board, everything follows the same rules, which most of the editions do to a certain point. You roll a d20, you add whatever, and off to the races you go. Eberron, I love Eberron. There's a race in there called, a species, my bad.
No, we using race. We're old school.
Yeah, okay. All right. Race called Shifters.
Species is for science fiction. Species is for science fiction because that's all science. This is
Right. All right. There was a race called Shifters in there that were basically watered down lycanthropes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought the werewolf character would be very interesting to play, but everybody's like, no, you can't be a werewolf because werewolves are evil. I'm like, why? If you'll be a lawful, you have to be a bear or a buffalo or a. I'm like, I don't want to be a bear. I know buffalo's not a thing, but like technically with lycanthrope, it could be any animal, but whatever. Were buffaloes. But I just know you can't. So I'm like looking through. Somebody had Eberron books, and I'm looking. Oh, that's cool. That's Warforged. Oh, so. In theory, if I place all of the metal parts for dark iron wood and became a druid, I could be a transformer. That's cool.
Autobots roll out. No,
I came across the Shifters. I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And I'm like, I turned the book around and I'm like, can I play one of these? He's like, let me see it. And we're playing Forgotten Realms.
Sure.
He's like, there are planes. So Eberron's one plane. How was his argument? Eberron is one plane. Forgotten Realms is another plane. There is this staircase that's connected. Yeah. All planes are connected to. And you just come through that way. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was perfectly happy with that. But there's no reason. The DM always has the power to say no. I guess that's where I should go with. The DM should always have the power to say no. And the moment you take that away from the DM, I never played tournament-style D&D, nor do I have any interest in it. I like the storyline, more than, wow, I won today because I won the tournament D&D. What the hell does that mean? That makes...
Well, and people forget tournament was timed. It was 4 hours long. You had to get through there. You had to move as quickly as possible. But this is where I agree with Max, the Owl talking about stuff. The point of Dragonlance was you had to do this. If you wanted to be mages, you had to go pick this. And I think that those limitations make the world more interesting and different, which is the point of why a lot of people are going through with it. And if you're going to use Forgotten Realms as your base, that anything's allowed. And again, the DM can do whatever they want. To be fair, the DM can do whatever they want. But it's a lot easier to say, hey, the world works this way. And I don't know about you. Again, I have tons of books about this. I like to read about the settings and why certain things work and why things don't, and the logic behind it, and some of the mechanisms, for gods and things like that. They've gotten away from so much of it. The original D&D had deities and demigods. Oh, well, we might offend someone. Yeah, but that's important.
That gets me in trouble right there. I will not allow the Abrahamic God in my campaigns.
Well, if you look at deities and demigods, it was never in there.
Right, but now people think it should be.
The problem that I have with so much of it, and I agree with you, is, if you want to be sensitive. But the point really is, and I'm ignoring the ones that they're based on reality.
Boy, I don't allow the Norse or the Celts or the Egyptian god. Well, that's not true. I will allow like bass if I'm telling, but for the most part, if it's worshipped, if it's still being worshipped in the really real world, it's not going to be my game.
Well, no. I'm not disagreeing with you about that. What I'm saying is, but if you're going to do a world like Dragonlance or Forgotten Realms, they have their own pantheons. You don't have to use any real world pantheons.
Oh yeah, I mean
that's what I'm referring to.
I agree.
By having your own pantheon there, that allows what does this god do? Why does this go through there? Why does this one go through there? It's the same reason whenever, like I said, I like gods that, we aren't going to do these rules. Well, they have their own rules, unless you're going to get into something like the old Indian mess where they're literally destroying worlds almost. I said, well, that's fine if you want to put it up that way. But usually they're playing by their rules as well. We don't want to destroy the earth by fighting each other, so we're going to use it by proxies.
Gotcha.
That's the way I look at it. And I like that because if you do it's just like the old Warhammer gods. It sets up the literature or the game for what's going in there. Now everyone talks about chaos and law, and I said, well, the I don't like the pure evil and good. I do kind of like the 9 alignment system, but now I hate saying it is they want to go into this. What is it? I forgot what the phrase is. It's not nihilistic, but it's basically however I feel is the way something should be. Well, that's
right.
Okay. But it doesn't make great stories. It doesn't make great stories in the old classical form, which when you read the old classics of the Iliad and the Odyssey, which is things that we grew up with. There's where we had our monsters in Conan and John Carter of Mars and stuff like that. Okay, fine. It's those are fun. They're interesting. They make the world feel more real. But current D&D, they don't even support their current stuff. As I understand some things, but man, I loved some of the stuff from Dark Sun because it set up the world and everything else. But nowadays, it's just there aren't any supplements. And really, if players want to understand the worlds that they're playing in, they have to go by stuff either from 3.5 or before. That to me is just bad marketing.
It really is. As much as I don't want to, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I'm freaking tired. But I want to thank the chat. I've been four viewers in the chat most of the night, which is 4 more than I was expecting. And I want to thank Multi-Gun Man, Fat Gamer, Hunger the
Starvarian,
Cal, and James L. And I hope James L feels better. I want to thank you all for showing up in the chat and joining the end from time to time. And out, thank you for hanging out with me on Christmas Day. Once again, I'm just tired. I mean, I got hours to kill because I haven't really streamed much this month, but I'm grateful out.
Hey man, relax, get some sleep. I don't take any offense to that. That's like my friends, like, well, we're afraid to just hang up on me when you're done, man.
All right. So for all those who end up watching this video later, have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year's. Don't get too drunk. Get a buzz. Make sure you're away home responsibly. And don't do anything I want to do. Granted, that doesn't leave much. Well, there's some things that I won't do. That being said, happy holidays. And we'll see you when we see you.